Chapter 185. There were several ways for a Yuanying cultivator to advance to the Huashan realm. The incarnation training method used by Shao Qi was one of them. Of course, it was considered an unorthodox method. Although Wang Lu had learned about it, he couldn't think of anything. However, since your main body is a great expert at the peak of the nascent soul stage, as long as you call your main body over, wouldn't this Grand Cloud Mountain division be flattened in minutes? Shao Qi said, it's because it's not convenient to call the real body, so I need your help. Now, I'm in the midst of the soul formation tribulation. My main body is divided into many parts, and I'm in between existing and not existing. However, the main body of this tribulation has yet to appear, so. Wang Lu sighed. So to put it simply, you're a mid-level king pill weakling now? You, a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator, actually have the nerve to criticize me as weak? At least I won't provoke an opponent I can't afford to offend. Was I the one who pointed at his nose and scolded him? If you hadn't given me the wrong information, I would have run away long ago. Forget it, I'm not going to argue with an ignorant junior like you. Anyway, since we have the same goal, then, what should we do next? As Shao Qi spoke, he looked at Wang Lu with an inquiring gaze. Wang Lu was flattered. Hey, do you, a senior master, need me to show you the way? Since you're Wang Wu's disciple, you're definitely more capable than me, so isn't it better for you to think of the troublesome things? Besides, I don't put on any airs, so you don't have to feel burdened. No, my burden is definitely not because of your arrogance. Now that things had developed to this point, Wang Lu could not trust this senior who was holding a Buddhist staff and had a look of anticipation on his face. However, having said that, no matter how unreliable he was, after all, a Taoist master king pill who had the vision of a peak Yuanying stage cultivator, and he also had a spiritual treasure in his hand. His real strength was much stronger than the combination of him and Lu Li. Just now, if she didn't have misgivings that the Grand Cloud Mountain was the Beast Master School's home ground, she would have directly wielded her Buddhist staff to fight with that cat-eared girl. Moreover, even though he encountered a small setback on the Grand Cloud Mountain, Wang Lu didn't plan to stop here. On the contrary, after witnessing the scene in the call, the thought of flattening this branch became even more intense. In fact, even though the actions of the beast-taming school had already entered the path of evil, it was not considered unusual in the continent of the 9 prefectures. All of the famous righteous sects had more or less similar actions in private. For example, Shengjing's sect was known as the leader of the Wanxian League, but didn't they have Taoist Master Jifeng in the Blue River region? In the Southern Heaven region, the actions of the Beast Master School were sometimes 100 times more intense than this. There were even some cultivators who, because mortals ate the forbidden meat, that is, the meat of their beloved spirit beasts, would kill them, and even exterminate their entire clan. It was an out-and-out demonic path. But, so what? The cultivator who killed them would simply apologize and go into seclusion for a few years. After that, the matter would be considered settled. No one would feel that there was a problem with that. Even the wisdom sect that was founded by Wang Lu, although it was now on the right track and appeared to be a lot more formal, but in the initial capital accumulation stage, using the burning blood technique to activate the skill was still an undeniable fact. This kind of thing was common in the immortal cultivation world, but conversely, because of this kind of thing, it was also normal. When Taoist Master Jifeng met Wang Wu, his years of painstaking effort were all for naught. Wang Lu's wisdom sect's luck was a bit better. At the beginning of its development, it didn't encounter any senior expert who came forward to meddle in its business. If it did, Wang Lu could only think of a way to deal with that senior. Now, Wang Lu really wanted to meddle in this matter on the Grand Cloud Mountain. He wasn't a senior expert, but he didn't necessarily need to have the means of a senior expert to meddle in this matter. Speaking of which, the Beast Master School collects spirit dogs to refine spiritual treasures in order to catch the young immortal beast. What exactly is the origin of that immortal beast? Xiaoqi said, it's not clear. At present, no one knows. Even the Beast Master School can only judge its level, which is roughly equivalent to a peak Shudan stage cultivator, and can't distinguish its breed. However, most of the immortal beasts in this world are unique. Why, are you interested? Of course, isn't it obvious? Wang Lu smiled and then turned his head to point at the distant Grand Cloud Mountain. Beast Master School has been operating here for a year, changing the feng shui line, setting up the spirit pool, and setting up the array. How much would it cost? Xiaoqi calculated. Not counting the manpower, about 1 or 2 million spirit stones should be enough. Yes, this Grand Cloud Mountain hasn't been operating for a long time, so the investment isn't much. Therefore, even if it's leveled, it's not a big deal. But, how much is the value of a young immortal beast? Xiaoqi was startled, and then he said with a smile, then it's a priceless treasure. The stage of a real immortal beast was almost beyond the upper limit of the immortal cultivation world of 9 regions, equivalent to a true immortal from the upper realm. For example, the current leader of the Wuxia League, Hichu Daoran, was 1 level higher. In the past, when a 9-tailed fox came to Spirit Sword Mountain, the 5 uniques of the Wuxia League had to use their trump card sealing method to barely suppress it. Thus, its high value was naturally not difficult to imagine. If it was a quasi-immortal beast like Fenrir, the value of a young immortal beast could at least be in the hundreds of millions of spirit stones, but a genuine immortal beast could not be measured by spirit stones. Of course, the classification of Fenrir was more or less based on the discrimination of the 9 regions against the Western continent. It didn't necessarily mean that Fenrir's strength was not up to the standard of an immortal beast. However, after all, there was no actual example, so it was not convincing enough. The reason why Wang Lu raised the issue of immortal beast was naturally to make a fuss about it. Right now, the Beast Master School of the Grand Cloud Mountain was trying their best to catch the young immortal beast. Perhaps the spirit dog was not up to the standard of an immortal beast, but since the Beast Master School attached so much importance to it, it was like a well-placed target, so it would be a waste not to hit it. So, what should we do? Xiaoqi completely gave up thinking and just waited for Wang Lu's order. Wang Lu bluntly said, there are 2 ways to do it. The first one is very simple. As long as the news of Beast Master School catching the young immortal beast is spread out, naturally, there will be a lot of trouble coming to our door. We just need to look on coldly from the sidelines, and then look for an opportunity to take advantage of the situation. It's easy and effortless. Xiaoqi clapped his hands. Oh, that's a good idea. But there's also a problem. The gimmick of the young immortal beast is too loud, and the Beast Master School, as a high-rank sect, has strong strength and a solid reputation, so they are determined to get it. Once the matter is made public, several Yuanying and deity stage cultivators will fly over from the southern heaven region to suppress the scene. If we want to fish in troubled waters, it will actually be more difficult than now. That makes sense. After all, it's the young immortal beast. Wang Lu said, so the second method is to quietly make a move, so that the wastewood of the Beast Master School division can't react in time, and then it will become an established fact. Then, not to mention anything else, at least my Lingjian school's reputation can be used. Xiaoqi asked, an established fact? What do you mean? Because the Beast Master School hasn't caught the young immortal beast, so at present, it's still ownerless. In theory, it's first come, first served. Yunzhou is a chaotic place, and the Beast Master School hasn't established an unbreakable reputation on the Grand Cloud Mountain. At least, the Wuxia League hasn't withdrawn from this place, so the resources on this land, unless they get their hands on them, there's no such thing as an owner. Of course, this theory won't work on ordinary sections. The result of snatching food from the tiger's mouth will certainly be the Beast Master School coming to smash the place. But would they dare to come to the Lingjian school to find trouble? Xiao Qi's eyes lit up. He was very appreciative. I can't see that you've studied this set of rules very thoroughly. Humph, this is the necessary quality of a professional adventurer. Wang Lu was also not polite at all. So for the few of us, the operation is actually very simple. As long as we find the young immortal beast one step ahead of the Beast Master School, then I'll activate the heavenly talisman and return to the mountain to take refuge. No matter how big the grievances are, they can only cry, there's no place to reason. Xiao Qi became more and more excited. Well said, but how are we going to find the young immortal beast? As far as I know, although it's not strong, it has a special ability that makes the professionals of the Beast Master School unable to do anything to it. That's why they have no choice but to seek help from the spirit treasure animal taming collar. If it's so easy to find, the Beast Master School wouldn't have set up such an inhumane formation like the Life Energy Gathering formation. Well, we'll have to depend on it. As Wang Lu said this, he used his foot to kick the stupid dog. In any case, it's a quasi-immortal beast, it should have the ability to find a companion, right? Xiao Qi was stunned. Resonance? Yes, I've seen it in the books. The higher the level of the spirit beast, the easier it is for them to resonate with each other. For example, if an ancient treasure is born, the nearby spirit treasures may respond. Although this stupid dog is stupid, it's still a quasi-immortal beast, so it should have the ability to resonate, right? Xiao Qi looked uncertainly at the stupid dog Yaowu, who was scratching its head with its foot. Are you sure this guy can? It doesn't matter. If we can't find it, we won't give it food. It definitely can. Woof. Feeling the impending crisis, the stupid dog became unprecedentedly nervous. Its pair of dog eyes were perfectly round, and its nose was twitching intensely, sniffing non-stop. This kind of pretense was just like a speech at a meeting. No one took it seriously. Even Xiao Qi, who was familiar with the habits of dogs, only laughed and said, "This animal is quite clever." However, the next moment, Xiao Qi's smile froze. Yaowu spoke in human language, "Don't say it, I think I really have a feeling." Xiao Qi was simply indescribably amazed. It can talk. Wang Lu was also indescribably amazed. Isn't this new? It's not like it's a meat dog. Yaowu ignored the two people. While sniffing its nose, it seriously said, "There's a strange smell everywhere on this Grand Cloud Mountain. I didn't feel it before, but after what you said, it's probably the same kind of smell." Wang Lu asked, "Can you make a further judgment?" "It's very difficult. Its smell is very scattered. Its smell is everywhere in the 500 li radius of the Grand Cloud Mountain. It's impossible to lock its position. It doesn't matter. It's expected." Wang Lu nodded. If it was so easy to find, the Beast Master School would have gotten it long ago. This time we have plenty of time. The 500 li radius of the Grand Cloud Mountain isn't that big. If we go there ourselves, we'll definitely find some clues. Yaowu sniffed again and said, "There's a kind of moon smell." Wang Lu was surprised. He casually took out a mooncake from his mustard seed bag and threw it to the stupid dog. "You can even smell this. Is this the moon smell you were talking about?" Yaowu was also surprised. Then it bit the mooncake and vaguely said, "Probably." After a while, the dog spat out the mooncake. Meat mooncake. Chapter 186. When Wang Lu made up his mind to personally traverse the 1,000 li radius of the Grand Cloud Mountain and find the legendary young immortal beast a step ahead, on top of the Grand Cloud Mountain's forgotten peak, a group of Beast Master School Division elders were experiencing an unforgettable lightning tribulation. The forgotten peak of the Grand Cloud Mountain was the highest peak within a 1,000 li radius, overlooking the surroundings. And on the summit, there was originally a Taoist temple built by the cultivators of the White Dragon Temple, but it had been demolished by the Beast Master School and replaced with a grey palace built with mountain stones. It looked far more rough and fierce than the previous building. However, this palace, which was built and reinforced by a secret method, was trembling amidst the bursts of roars. Large and small cracks appeared on its surface, and dust and gravel rustled down, as if it could collapse at any time. "You two useless pieces of trash." And in the palace, a cat-eared girl with a defeated expression was kneeling in the middle. Next to her was a sturdy, half-naked man with battle scars on his skin. The two people were bombarded by the roars in the palace. They were on the verge of collapse, and blood overflowed from the 7 apertures of their heads. The cat-eared girl's cultivation was far higher than Chi-Ho's, but the pressure she was under was also thousands of times heavier, and she was already overwhelmed. And sitting on the chief seat, the one who emitted the rolling thunder was a valiant cultivator with a body even more sturdy than Chi-Ho. On his thick neck was a tiger's head. This was the great elder of this place, a nascent soul Taoist master, Tiger King Lei Zhen. This tiger-headed great elder was not a spirit beast, but a pure-blooded human cultivator. It was just that when he reached the nascent soul realm, he chose to permanently transform his body. Although he no longer had the appearance of a human, he had the magical abilities of a spirit beast. Today, this tiger's thunder roar was one of them. With a nascent soul-level cultivation, even a peak king pill cultivator would not be able to withstand the thunder roar. Its power was more than 10 times stronger than the cat-eared girl's scream in the kernel. If not for the fact that this Tiger King had no intention to kill, the 11 elders in the palace would not have left a single one alive. And the people present also knew that although Tiger King was furious, he did not have any killing intent. They all raised their cultivation to resist, waiting for Tiger King's anger to dissipate a bit before discussing business. Not long after, the sound of thunder gradually subsided, and everyone felt relieved. However, Tiger King's cold snort made everyone's hearts skip a beat again. It has been more than a year since we came here from the southern heaven region. Everyone here is a Taoist master of the King Pill. 1 year is not a long time, but during this period, our investment is by no means small. Including me, more than half of the people here have encountered a bottleneck in their cultivation and need to go into closed-door cultivation as soon as possible. However, for the sake of the sect's grand plan, no one has relaxed for more than a year, not even for a moment. We started from scratch, and the sect didn't give us much support. Every brick and tile in this mountain was built by us, and it cost us a lot. Under his high chair, the 2 rows of elders sitting in front of him secretly nodded. More than 1 year, when they were in the southern heaven region, they had made a long-term plan for this matter. Counting those, everyone's investment has been difficult to estimate. Everything we have done has not been in vain. Our group of people came from afar, and in a year's time, we have laid our foundation here. Within a radius of 500 miles around the Grand Cloud Mountain, including the original owner of the White Dragon Temple, as well as more than 10 other large and small immortal cultivation forces, they have all been expelled by us. This mountain can now be said to be in the palm of our hands. Hearing this, the complexion of the 2 rows of elders sank. However, for the next 6 months, we can't even control this small area in the palm of our hands. That beast is hiding in the Grand Cloud Mountain, but we can't even find its shadow. 3 months ago, when the sect's messenger came, can you guess what he said? The elders didn't need to guess. As long as they looked at Tiger King's gloomy face, they knew that those people from the southern heaven region absolutely didn't have any good words. I don't want to repeat those words. That day, the messenger spoke rudely, so I have personally twisted his chin. The elders turned pale with fright. 3 months ago, that messenger was the sovereign's favorite person. The elders on the Grand Cloud Mountain have been given the cold shoulder by the sect. Now, wouldn't it be? Since 5 years ago, when we learned about the moon spirit of the Grand Cloud Mountain, everything we have done has been for it. Since we have walked this road until now, we have no way out. No matter what difficulties we encounter, whether it is the southern heaven region's hindrance, whether that moon spirit has a new magical ability, or whether it is that bastard Zen Master Guru blocking our way, the only thing we have to do is to crush all these problems. For this, we have to do it by hook or by crook, at all costs. Tiger King said and fiercely clenched his fist. Unexpectedly, he squeezed the air and made a deafening explosion sound. Ling Yan, you have always been responsible for Zen Master Guru's matter. This time, it was also your mistake that let him run away. Now that we are in need of people, I will give you the opportunity to redeem yourself. You have to personally catch that bastard. The cat-eared girl hastily nodded her head to express her gratitude, but her quick-witted eyes also revealed a trace of doubt. In terms of cultivation, the middle-level King Pill Zen Master Guru naturally couldn't be compared with her, who was at the peak of the King Pill. However, the other party's cultivation method was brilliant, his background was deep, and his comprehensive strength was not much different from hers. That day, if she wasn't inside the Beast Master School's array, the cat-eared girl actually didn't have full confidence that she could defeat the opponent. Not to mention that Zen Master Guru also had a middle-level spiritual treasure in his hand, which was enough to reverse the situation of strength and weakness. Now, Tiger King wanted her to redeem herself by capturing Zen Master Guru, but if she really went to his door, it would be strange if she didn't use her Buddhist staff to beat her brains out. Tiger King glanced at her and coldly said, "What? Do you think it's difficult?" "No, this subordinate doesn't dare." The cat-eared girl's cold sweat poured down, and her body trembled like a sieve. "Humph, that dog bastard's cultivation is not high, but she has a good treasure in her hand. You're alone, so you're indeed not her opponent. However, I won't let you die in vain, so I'll lend you a person." The cat-eared girl's heart was startled, and then immediately became happy. The cultivation of this Tiger King's 4 spirit beasts was not inferior to hers, and each of them had their own magical abilities. They were a rare and powerful partner. If she really had the help of those 4 spirit beasts, dealing with Zen Master Guru and those 2 small fries would be an easy matter. "Well, come in." Following Tiger King's call, a person came from the back of the hall. This person had the smell of the southern heaven region, so it was obvious that he was the reinforcement that Tiger King had just called from the headquarters. However, as soon as this person appeared, the cat-eared girl, Ling Yan, was dumbfounded as if she was struck by lightning. How could it be him? Looking at the middle-aged cultivator who respectfully saluted Tiger King with a gentle smile on his face, Ling Yan's body involuntarily began to tremble. Her skin felt a tingling sensation, and her heart was aching. She couldn't help but recall the cruel past. Today, Ling Yan has successfully transformed. Although a small part of her body still had the characteristics of a spirit beast, she was still a cultivator of the Beast Master School, enjoying all the treatment of human cultivators. However, before that, she was just an ordinary spirit beast of the Beast Master School. She was captured by the cultivators from the Barren Mountain, and after undergoing harsh training, she learned the rules of the human world. And at that time, the one responsible for training her was the brown-skinned cultivator before her. Beast Trainer Xia. Ling Yan? It's been a long time. In the face of that friendly smiling face, Ling Yan's whole body trembled and she took a few steps back. In the past, whenever Xia revealed such a smile, it meant the beginning of the pain. Seeing this abnormality, Tiger King frowned. "I heard that in the southern heaven region, the 2 of you have the fate of master and disciple. You should know each other very well and have a tacit understanding with each other. In the past, the efficiency of your cooperation was also good, so I called him here. Ling Yan, do you have a problem?" Ling Yan's eyes widened. She wanted to open her mouth, but being stared at by Tiger King's impatient eyes, she was unable to say anything. Perhaps Tiger King knew something about the past, but he didn't care. As he said, the two of them had the fate of master and disciple, so they had a tacit understanding with each other, and their efficiency was indeed good. If one didn't consider the pain that Ling Yan had experienced, they were indeed a perfect partner. As for Ling Yan's pain, did Tiger King need to care? I have no problem. Ling Yan clenched her fists, constantly telling herself in her heart, I am no longer the original me. Now that I am at the peak of King Pill, I don't need to be afraid of a mere middle-level King Pill Xia. Xia has been cultivating for more than 200 years, yet he still couldn't go any further. He is far inferior to me. However, while she was thinking, Xia's voice suddenly came from behind her. It's only been 30 years since we last met, but you're already a powerhouse at the peak of King Pill. What an enviable good route. While speaking, a few ice-cold fingers quietly rested on the back of Ling Yan's neck. A cold and gloomy energy suddenly spread out, as if it wanted to freeze her entire jade mansion. Ling Yan turned pale with fright. Just as she was about to summon her magical power to resist, that force disappeared without a trace. And Xia himself, from the beginning to the end, stood beside Tiger King, not moving even half a step. Beads of cold sweat dripped down from the girl's head. Her heart was in a mess. However, at this time, no one would pay attention to her abnormal state. Tiger King arranged the matter of Zen Master Dog Meat, and then began to arrange for everyone to continue to arrange the array formation on the Grand Cloud Mountain, and to refine the spirit treasure in order to capture the immortal beast Moon Spirit. Everyone held their breath, not daring to miss even the slightest detail. It was now approaching the 7th month, and the critical moment was getting closer and closer. Tiger King's task arrangement was getting tighter and tighter, so no one had the leisure to pay attention to other people's situation. After a long time, after Tiger King had arranged everyone's task, the present elders left one after another. However, there was one person who stayed in the hall with a pale complexion. That person was Chi Ho. Chapter 187. The radius of 500 miles around the Grand Cloud Mountain couldn't be said to be big, but the mountain terrain was continuous and complex. In particular, the spiritual energy along the feng shui line changed rapidly, which converged and surged in the mountains, making the mountain environment even more changeable. When flying from the sky, perhaps the Grand Cloud Mountain couldn't be considered as vast, but when walking on the ground, in 10 days or half a month, one could only walk a corner of the mountain. Wang Lu has been walking on the Grand Cloud Mountain for a whole week, but he still hasn't walked through the surrounding several peaks. On one hand, the landlord of this place, Beast Master School, has strengthened their vigilance. The number of patrolling disciples and spirit beasts were far more than usual, which brought a lot of obstacles to Wang Lu's hiking plan. On the other hand, the stupid dog that led the way also got into trouble. It often went around in circles, leading Wang Lu for half a day before it innocently whimpered and said that it was lost. Wang Lu walked on the Grand Cloud Mountain in order to borrow the quasi-immortal beast Quan Zouhua's power of resonance to find the immortal beast with the moon flavor ahead of the Beast Master School. Unfortunately, after a week, he found out that this stupid dog was really useless. Of course, the stupid dog has its own explanation for this. Resonance should be useful. In the moonless night, I can feel the traces of its existence on the mountain, and I can even lock its approximate position. However, the other side clearly doesn't want to see us, deliberately hiding. The resonance is weak, so even if it deliberately disguises itself, I can't do anything about it. With the stupid dog's level of intelligence, to organize such a well-organized speech, it could be seen that it was really anxious and crazy. Therefore, although Wang Lu was helpless, he could only throw the marinated bone from his mustard seed bag to it, letting it gnaw to its heart's content. After a week of climbing the mountain, this was the result. Wang Lu couldn't help but frown, inwardly thinking about how to proceed to the next step. As for the other two people, they didn't seem to have any pressure. Lu Li was naive and only longed for the beautiful scenery of the mountain. In any case, along the way, Wang Lu entertained her with good food and drinks, so she had no worries and had a particularly carefree time. As for the Immortal Beast and Beast Master School, obviously, she didn't care. However, the other companions seemed intriguing. In the past few days, Senior Xiaoqi and Lu Li had a very pleasant conversation. Her Buddhist name was Gluttonous Dog Meat Master, and obviously, she had quite a bit of understanding about food. Needless to say, the characteristics of Lu Li were also needless to say. In the past few days, the two of them wished they could become sworn sisters. When they talked about delicacies from all over the world, even the genius Wang Lu couldn't get a word in. Although he had read a lot of books, he hadn't tasted many delicacies in person, so he couldn't participate in the conversation between the two professionals. However, Xiaoqi's activity was limited to this. In addition to eating, drinking, and having fun, he didn't talk about anything else. When he didn't talk to Lu Li, he just silently followed behind Wang Lu, following Quan Zhouhua around in circles, seemingly indifferent. Therefore, Wang Lu asked, "Qinyang, aren't you anxious? What's the hurry?" Xiaoqi asked. "I'm not interested in that immortal beast anyway." Wang Lu asked, "You and the Beast Master School have an irreconcilable enmity of killing your father?" Xiaoqi spat, "You're the one who has an enmity of killing my father. Originally, I really don't like the Beast Master School. However, in the past few days, my interest in the Beast Master School has faded. If I can destroy this division, then I'll destroy it. If not, then it doesn't matter. I'm not the same as you, master and disciple, so I don't necessarily have to do things with results. The most important thing for people to live is to be happy. How about I cook a bowl of noodles for you to eat?" Wang Lu snappily said, "Even if you cook a bowl of noodles for me to eat, I won't be happy. Alas, there's no one under me, I have to do everything by myself." Xiaoqi, on the other hand, found it funny. "Who forced you to do things? You and the Beast Master School don't have any enmity of killing your father or snatching your wife. Even if the scene in the valley that day, as well as the wrongdoing of some of their elders, made you two have enmity, it's not that you can't let it go, so why are you so persistent?" Wang Lu, on the other hand, seriously answered this question. "Since I've decided to do it, then I'll try my best to do it. Professional adventurers don't have the habit of giving up halfway." "Oh, this explanation makes sense." Xiaoqi very simply accepted Wang Lu's explanation and nodded. "You two are indeed worthy to be called master and disciple, your style of doing things is exactly the same. But this is strange, your master has no choice but to work hard. She has already become used to working hard. Your aptitude and opportunities are far better than your master's, is it necessary to work so hard?" The two of them were just casually chatting, but upon hearing Xiaoqi's words, Wang Lu's interest was immediately piqued. "My master has no choice? I'd like to hear the details." Xiaoqi was surprised. "You're her disciple, didn't she tell you about her matters?" Then he immediately felt relieved. "That's true, with her temperament, she definitely wouldn't tell you about those things." Wang Lu immediately said, "So it's up to you, Qinyang, to uncover her dark history." Seeing that Wang Lu's eyes were sparkling, Xiaoqi couldn't help but find it funny. "Usually, you always talk bad about your master, but now you put on the face of a fan. Actually, it's not a big deal. I don't know much about the specific things. After all, she and I are just fair-weather friends. It's just that we've known each other for a long time, so I know more. In fact, you've been cultivating with her for so many years, so you should have already seen the clues." His words were like a mountain of mist, but Wang Lu actually understood and nodded. "Actually, I can see the problem from your cultivation method. Look at Lu Li beside you. She cultivates the ancient inheritance of brilliant sword heart, which pays particular attention to the unity of man and nature. Therefore, when she walks, sits, or lies down, her whole person seems to be integrated with the environment. Look at her walk, the distance of each step is different, but all of them fit the needs of the environment. The surrounding spiritual energy brushes past her body and comes out from her back, completely unaffected. However, when she really wants to move, the surrounding spiritual energy within a kilometer radius will move according to her heart. Of course, this is still far from the highest level of brilliant sword heart, but its nature has already manifested. As for you, when you walk, the distance of each step is exactly the same. Except for when you meditate, when your whole body is sealed, the surrounding spiritual energy can't penetrate even the slightest bit, and the magical power within your body won't flow out. What do you think this means? Although Xiao Qi didn't clearly say the answer, how could he not understand it? Brilliant sword heart is an ancient inheritance. In ancient times, the surrounding spiritual energy was rich, and opportunities were everywhere. At that time, the cultivators were also high-spirited. As long as their aptitude wasn't too bad, they would advance triumphantly on the road of immortal cultivation. After all, the environment was too good. Therefore, the cultivation method that was born at that time often emphasized the integration with the environment and more use of the environment. As for this non-phase method, it's clearly a cultivation method that was born in a barren land. When Master invented this thing, she must have been under a lot of pressure. If not, how could 10 years ago, when he first passed this method to her, he solemnly said that the most important thing in immortal cultivation was to be hard enough? However, I can't guess what it is exactly. As a result, Xiao Qi shrugged his shoulders. You can't guess? There are so many obvious clues, how could you not guess? 20 years ago, when I went on experiential learning with your master, even a simple and honest person like me could see a lot of things, how could you not see it? Although your Lingjian school has always been weak among the 5 uniques of the Wanxian League, at least 200 years ago, the number of people in your school can't be considered to have withered. More than 100 years ago, it was known as the Golden Generation in your school. More than 100 talented immortal cultivation disciples shone brightly like the stars in the sky. That period of history might not be mentioned in your Spirit Sword Mountain, but most of the elders in the immortal cultivation world in the 9 regions know about it. However, Wang Lu hadn't heard much about this. He had been cultivating for 10 years, but he didn't go down the mountain for experiential learning for a long time. Thus, he didn't know about the concept of the Golden Generation. However, at this time, he could roughly guess the follow-up. That Golden Generation was now only left with 10 people from the Heavenly Sword Hall. Obviously, the Lingjian school had suffered an unusually tragic blow, which led to less than 1 out of 10 talented disciples. What was even more frightening was, perhaps even the teachers of that era were also lost. Other sects, whether it was the 5 uniques of the Wanxian League, or the first-rank sects like the Wanxiang sect, in addition to the sect leader and elders, most of the time, there would be some grand supreme elders who were in closed-door training, whose seniority was even higher than the sect leader. And the number and strength of the grand supreme elders were often the direct reflection of a sect's heritage. Lingjian school didn't have a single grand supreme elder. Above Feng Yin, all of them were enshrined in the ancestral hall. There was not a single living person, which formed an unusually conspicuous gap. Now, it seemed like this was also the result of that great catastrophe. And his master Wang Wu, in the great catastrophe, invented the non-phase method in order to survive. She said that the most important thing in the immortal cultivation was to be hard enough, not to act like a hoodlum in broad daylight, but from the bottom of her heart. Perhaps that set of defensive survival method seemed ridiculous to many people, but 100 years ago, the Golden Generation was almost extinct, and Wang Wu, who had a mediocre spirit root, actually survived. The dead genius was just a corpse, but the living Wang Wu could bring harm to the world. Who was superior and who was inferior, at a glance, was clear. Then, as mentioned by Xiao Qi, his master loved to work hard, it was obviously not because she was diligent in cultivation, but purely because, if she didn't work hard, she would die. Thinking of this, his master was really a pitiful person. However, a pitiful person must have a hateful side. Among the 10 Heavenly Sword Hall elders, the other 9 were in good condition, but she was the only one who constantly broke the lower limit. It could be seen that this person also had her own nature. Thinking of this, he heard Xiaoqi sigh, "Lingjian School, your generation of disciples is really blessed." Wang Lu frowned and was about to speak when he suddenly saw Xiaoqi's expression freeze. Not long after, a feminine, cold, and particularly unpleasant voice came from behind. "I finally meet you." Turning around, Wang Lu saw a gray robe, and under the gray robe was a dark brown face. That person seemed to be only 30 or 40 years old, but his eyes seemed to have experienced the vicissitudes of life. With Wang Lu's current eyesight, although he could not accurately judge his cultivation level, he knew that this person was not as young as he looked. He must have cultivated for at least 100 years. That person had a smile on his face, but there was not a trace of friendliness. And behind that person stood a petite and exquisite girl. The girl was wearing a large cloak, covering her head and face. However, the hood was pushed up by the girl's 2 pointed ears. And her figure and appearance also looked particularly familiar. It was the peak of King Pill that he met a week ago, the cat-eared girl. Being approached by the people of Beast Master School, Wang Lu frowned. The sword of Mount Kun naturally appeared in his hand. His cultivation level was not high, so in front of a King Pill level expert, he simply had no power to protect himself. However, when he used his non-phase sword defense, even a King Pill level expert would have to spend some effort. This effort should be enough for Xiaoqi to open the door and escape. However, that dark brown cultivator was the first to open his mouth and said, "We have no malice." Chapter 188. We have no malice. Yes, nowadays, the theme of the immortal cultivation world in 9 regions is peace and development. The number of barbarians who would blatantly shout that they are here to destroy and conquer is getting fewer and fewer. Even if it was clear that the iron hooves of the army trampled on the people, causing them to be in a terrible situation, the general holding the flag would hold up his bloody hands and shout, "We bring you democracy and freedom." Yes, the left hand is democracy, the right hand is freedom. Left hand and right hand, break your tendons and bones. Therefore, when he heard that dark brown cultivator said that he had no malice, Wang Lu smiled. Only dead people have no malice. If you cut your own throat with your sword, I will believe you. That dark brown cultivator ignored this ridicule. His smile didn't change as he continued, "I am a Xia. You've seen the one beside me, cat girl Ling Yan." As a Xia said that, his smile gradually faded, and he assumed a serious posture. However, his pair of dark eyes were still unfathomable. "A week ago, we received the instruction of the great elder of the Grand Cloud Mountain to solve the trouble brought by the 3 of you." Wang Lu asked, "And then you came without malice?" A Xia said, "Exactly. Because I always feel that, compared to extermination, many things can be resolved peacefully." Resolved peacefully? Yes. For example, here, on behalf of the Beast Master School's Grand Cloud Mountain Division, I implore the 3 of you to let bygones be bygones and bury the hatchet. Upon hearing this, Wang Lu nodded again and again. Since rape doesn't work, you come to seduce them. Your calculation is really good." A Xia smiled again. "Yes, I have carefully calculated it. If I have to fight with the 3 of you, I don't know how much trouble it would be. A middle-rank King Pill with a spiritual treasure can freely enter and exit my Beast Master School's inescapable net. Such an opponent may be defeated or repelled, but if we want to completely solve it, I'm afraid even our great elder may not be able to do it. What's more, we are still short of manpower in our plan. If we split our manpower to deal with the three of you, I'm afraid we would end up in a dilemma. So, why bother? Hearing this, Xiaoqi was stunned for a moment and said, "You're quite an interesting person. You're different from those beastly fellows." Xia slightly cupped his hands in obeisance. "To be honest, my cultivation base is shallow, and my aptitude is dull. In this life, I have no hope to go further, so naturally, I'm not as sharp as the other disciples. But because of this, there are some problems that they can't solve, but I can. Actually, in my opinion, there isn't any deep hatred between the two sides. There's no need to make things so tense." Xiaoqi asked, "No deep hatred?" Xia said, "It's just a few thousand dogs, is it worth it to have such a deep hatred?" It was the elders who dealt with this matter that overreacted. "If you are willing to let bygones be bygones, we will sincerely apologize for our previous rudeness." Saying that, he turned his gaze towards Wang Lu. "Similarly, I also want to apologize to you for Elder Qi Ho's rude behavior." Wang Lu sneered, "If apologies are useful, then what's the point of using hell money?" Xia nodded again and again. Exactly. How can empty words win people's trust? Therefore, in order to show sincerity, look. With that, Xia took out something from his loose robe. Upon seeing it, Wang Lu couldn't help but look sluggish. It was an arm. The muscles were plump and the bones were coarse. His memory was very good, he remembered it was Qi Ho's right hand. As a Beast Master school elder, he was not strict enough. 2 of his disciples conspired against Your Excellency's spirit beast. Later, he was bewitched and actually wanted his spirit beast to snatch it away. Finally, he even personally intervened. In accordance with Beast Master School's rules, he should be severely punished. Now, I take an arm as an apology. I don't know if I can get Your Excellency's forgiveness? Not to mention the weight of this arm, it was rare for a Taoist Master King Pill to speak so lowly to Wang Lu, a middle-level foundation establishment stage cultivator. Although Xia's pair of strange eyes hid an unfathomable expression, his attitude was really impeccable. In response to this, Wang Lu laughed. "You guys actually know how to make use of waste." That day, he, Lu Li, and Quan Zouhua joined hands to repel Qi Ho, killed his 2 spirit beasts, and broke his magical treasure. Thus, at least 60% of Qi Ho's ability was wasted. Although the King Pill stage was still there, according to Wang Lu's ranking system, it was the 9 levels N of King Pill. Thus, his real strength had long fallen to an unknown degree. And after suffering such a heavy blow, with Qi Ho's aptitude and temperament, how could it be easy for him to make a comeback? He was indeed a waste. And what was the value of a waste's arm? However, Wang Lu unscrupulously pointed out this issue, which was somewhat like a slap in the face. However, Xia was still not angry and continued to nod. "Indeed, this alone is not enough to prove our sincerity. Therefore, Ling Yan, come here." Behind him, the cat-eared girl in the cloak trembled, slowly walked over, and then took off her hood. She was still that young girl who had transformed from a spirit beast, but there was no lack of heroic spirit. However, compared to a few days ago, her complexion was deathly pale, and her spiritual aura had completely disappeared. Furthermore, she wore a black eye patch on her face, covering her right eye. Then, the girl stretched out her right hand. In her palm, there was a cat's eye stone that shone brightly. "You." Xiaoqi was surprised, and even vaguely angry. The nearby Wang Lu also slightly widened his eyes. Obviously, this scene was not within his expectation. Xia was still smiling. Using this high-rank spiritual object as compensation should be able to prove our sincerity. Wang Lu was silent. Xiaoqi was silent. Lu Li incredulously looked at the girl and the cat's eye stone in her hand. She wanted to open her mouth, but she didn't know what to say. Regarding this, even a harsh person would have nothing to say. If Chi-Ho's right hand was just a waste, then this cat's eye stone was a spiritual object created by a peak Taoist master of King Pil. Moreover, by using a secret method to remove the eyeball and turn it into a gem, the lost right eye was almost impossible to regenerate, unless one advanced to Yuanying and got a chance to reshape the body. However, from peak King Pil to Yuanying, it was not easy to cross the hurdle. Ling Yan was a spirit beast in human form, so her advancement was several times more difficult than a human cultivator. Now that her body was damaged, the difficulty increased again, and it could be said that her advancement was hopeless. Such a loss, even in a first-rate sect, could not be ignored. The number of Taoist Master of King Pil in Beast Master School was not small, but each of them had their own value. To just casually cripple one of them, it was really. Wang Lu was silent for a moment. His eyes were firmly locked on Xia. The other party's posture was impeccable, but because of this, it made people feel uncomfortable, because such conditions simply had irresistible power. Xia's posture was very low, but behind him, there was a mountain-like weight. Why? It was very simple. If at this time, Xia took out gold and silver, or even high-rank spiritual treasure, Wang Lu could say, "I, your father, am of noble character and unquestionable integrity, so I don't care." However, the other party's eyeballs were already dug out, and you still don't care? Then what else do you want? Will you only be satisfied when the entire Beast Master School is dead? At that time, the unreasonable one would no longer be the Beast Master School who was in the wrong, but the unforgiving Wang Lu. He had to admit that although this method was vicious and by no means righteous, it did put people in a dilemma. Wang Lu was silent. Looking at the increasingly meaningful smile on Xia's face, his heart gradually became angry. Wang Lu was a person who, most of the time, was amenable to coaxing but not coercion. If he treated him with sincerity, unless there was a contradiction that couldn't be reconciled, otherwise, Wang Lu would always leave some leeway. However, right now, Xia's seemingly soft but actually hard attitude provoked Wang Lu. "Interesting, you want to play tricks with me? Are you sure?" However, before Wang Lu could take action, he heard Xiaoqi's compassionate sigh from behind him. "If you really have sincerity, why be generous at other people's expense? You also have eyes, why don't you dig out your own eyes?" While speaking, Xiaoqi, holding the Buddhist staff, stepped forward a few steps. That thick Buddhist staff emitted a soft golden light. Under the light, Wang Lu only felt a burst of warmth from the bottom of his heart. He could not help but be surprised. "Seventh Madam, you," the next moment, he couldn't speak. Just as Xiaoqi took a few steps forward, the woman's figure became infinitely tall. Her purple robe, along with the Buddhist staff, emitted a soft Zen light. She raised her hands and feet, petals fluttered, and the Zen sound lingered in the air. Around the woman, it was as if there were hundreds of arhats chanting sutras in unison. The momentum was vast, and the faint power was irresistible. What a poor child. Xiaoqi looked at the cat-eared girl with infinite compassion. Then, he stretched out his Buddhist staff. His speed seemed slow, but it was actually fast, and it could not be resisted at all. The crystallized cat's eye stone suddenly rotated. From its angular appearance, it gradually swelled up, and a moment later, it turned into a watery mass. At this point, even the mysterious Xia's face showed great surprise. Ling Yan's right eye was removed by a secret technique, crystallized, and turned from a living thing to a dead thing. But Xiaoqi's Zen light could bring a dead person back to life, turning a dead thing back to life. It could be said to be a magical skill. "Go." Xiaoqi sighed. His Buddhist staff slightly trembled, and the eyeball in Ling Yan's palm turned into a swift light and flew into the eye patch. The girl cried out in surprise and then took off the eye patch. A quick-witted eye rolled, clear as ever. Really a good trick. Wang Lu was simply amazed. How could he not see the difficulty of petrifying a cat's eye into a cat's eye? Moreover, Xiaoqi was just a doppelganger. Her magical power realm was only the middle level of King Pill. Although the Buddhist staff in her hand was a spiritual treasure, it was far from enough to create such a miracle. What was magical was not the Buddhist staff, but Xiaoqi. Using the King Pill realm to turn the dead into life meant that she had comprehended the way of reincarnation, which was the great Tao that many great cultivators of Zen sect failed to comprehend. Sure enough, the person who could be friends with his master was by no means an ordinary person. And Xiaoqi's move, in addition to showing her amazing strength, also resolved Xia's trick. Your eyeball, I will return it to you. If you want to reconcile, please give me a new price tag. And Xiaoqi had just said that if she was sincere, she should dig out her own eye. Xiaoqi was still holding the Buddhist staff. The Zen light around her was still there, and the Zen sound did not stop. However, the benevolence of all living beings had disappeared without a trace. The woman coldly stared at Xia, seemingly waiting for him to dig out his own eye. Zen Master Guru had the means of a Zen master, but she didn't have the compassion of a Zen master. When she was in a bad mood, she could eat thousands of spirit dogs on the Grand Cloud Mountain. Similarly, she didn't mind digging out the eyeball of a sinister person. Xia sighed. This is really embarrassing. It seems that today's visit is not the right time. Let's meet again next time. Want to leave? Wang Lu raised his eyebrows. Holding the sword of Mount Kun, he took a step forward. Completely disregarding the insurmountable gap between the middle level of Foundation Establishment and the middle level of King Pill, he made the first move. Xia's complexion was dignified. Of course, he didn't care about Wang Lu's plain sword thrust. Even without the constraint of the Big Heart Demon Oath, Wang Lu's attack power was still appalling. However, at this time, Wang Lu was not alone. When he thrust his sword forward, the naive girl behind him, though she didn't know the reason, moved one step faster than Wang Lu. The same sword thrust, but Lu Li's attack could not be ignored. Even though the distance between high-level Foundation Establishment and middle-level Jindan was like the distance between heaven and earth, Brilliant Sword Heart was like the bridge between heaven and earth. With this sword thrust, Xia felt that his whole body's magical power was faintly shaken. If he wanted to take it head-on, although it was not that he couldn't take it, but considering that the opposite party still had the unfathomable Zen method of Zen Master Dog Meat, Xia decided to escape. Xia and Ling Yan came together, so naturally, they wouldn't leave alone. Xia stepped back. His body had already lit up with the floating light of the escape technique. He reached out to grab Ling Yan, but Ling Yan was a bit slow and didn't immediately follow him. However, at this time, Lu Li's sword suddenly changed its momentum and slashed in front of Ling Yan. Xia's eyebrows twitched, and the connection between him and Ling Yan was cut off. The next moment, the floating light on his body flashed. Although his body was teleported away by a spell, in a twinkling of an eye, he was already dozens of miles away. A certain cat-eared girl was left behind. It was almost the same tactic as the one used to deal with Chi Ho. The only difference was that at that time, she left behind a skull that only had a commemorative value. This time, she left behind a peak level of King Pill, pet. Looking at the cowering Ling Yan, no matter who it was difficult to associate her with the overbearing elder from a few days ago. Chapter 189. Xiaoqi, Wang Lu, and Lu Li, the three of them joined forces to stop Xia's right-hand man, making that gloomy middle-aged cultivator return in low spirits, thus winning a glorious victory. To sum it up simply, it was probably this sentence. Then, the three of them looked at the spoils of their glorious victory in silence. Ling Yan was surrounded by the three of them. The beard on her cheeks constantly trembled, unable to conceal the high tension and fear in her heart. Her cultivation base was the highest among them. Her peak king pill cultivation base was even far beyond Xiao Qi's. Moreover, Wang Lu and Lu Li were left far behind. It was reasonable to say that she alone could easily defeat the three of them. However, she was very clear that if they really fought, the three of them would only need 1 or 2 moves to take her life. Although this place was still within the boundary of the Grand Cloud Mountain, there was no array that she was familiar with. Without the array to extract the spiritual energy from the feng shui line, or even the power of the entire Grand Cloud Mountain, she didn't think that she could defeat Zen Master Guru solely by relying on her magical power cultivation base. Not to mention those 2 foundation establishment cultivators were far more powerful than they looked. More importantly, in the face of the woman who made her right eye see the light again, Ling Yan's heart was indescribably complicated. Perhaps when a Xia reached out his hand to beckon her to leave, that moment of stagnation came from this. However, in the face of the present situation, the girl's heart was at a loss as to what to do next. So, what should we do next? Xiao Qi also didn't have any idea. Therefore, he bluntly asked for help from Wang Lu, who always had too many ideas. Wang Lu crossed his arms and looked at the seemingly 12 or 13 years old cat-eared girl in front of him. How about we do some perverted things to her? If it was someone else who said this, Xiao Qi would most likely just treat it as a verbal cannonball. However, since it was Wang Lu who said it, Xiao Qi held his monk's staff and half-warned, "Hey, in any case, you're also a person with prestige." Wang Lu also said, "Therefore, perverted things must be done quietly. She's a Beast Master School Division elder. Although she looks a bit weak, she's still stronger than that muscular trash called Chi Ho. Maybe we can find some important clues from her, so I suggest that we use a perverted method to torture her." Xiao Qi asked, "I can understand interrogation and torture, but why do you have to emphasize perverts?" Wang Lu said matter-of-factly, "No matter what I do to a girl who looks like she's only 12 or 13 years old, I'll look like a pervert. So I might as well do it openly. As expected of your master's disciple. What a perverted and honorable person." Fortunately, the cat-eared girl didn't really have to wait for Wang Lu to use any kind of insane martial arts. She confessed everything in detail, and the process was a complete mess. In this regard, Ling Yan's explanation was also particularly convincing. "I can't go back, and I don't want to go back." Having seen Xia's method of taking out the eyeball, it was not difficult to understand Ling Yan's defection. After all, cats were never known for their loyalty. After defecting, Ling Yan had a bit of self-abandonment. There were a lot of things that Wang Lu didn't ask, but she already confessed herself, including the great cause that Tiger King and the other elders conspired here, which was the news about the immortal beast Moon Spirit. The information about the immortal beast was first obtained by chance when we were in the southern heaven region. Although our Beast Master School is not good at divination, we are particularly sensitive to the news related to spirit beasts. Therefore, in recent years, in the 9 regions, there are basically Beast Master School's shadow in the events related to rare spirit beasts. This was completely in line with the understanding of Wang Lu and the others, so they nodded to show their acceptance. However, immortal beast, even in the vast 9 regions, is rarely seen in 100 years. Therefore, there is a great controversy about this in the sect. First, the location of the immortal beast is in the cloud region, not within the sphere of influence of the Beast Master School. Second, it's just the result of a divination, which is not enough to win people's trust. Therefore, in the end, only the radical sect elder, Tiger King Lei Zhen, led his people from the southern heaven region. For this reason, he paid a great price. Basically, it's impossible for us to return to the southern heaven region. However, when we entered the Grand Cloud Mountain, we found out that this bet was probably right. There are indeed traces of the immortal beast on the Grand Cloud Mountain. Moreover, it's the precious young immortal beast. Wait a minute. Xiao Qi interrupted, what is the origin of that immortal beast? Before we actually catch it, we can't be sure. However, according to the current situation, we can infer that the young immortal beast should be a natural variant. It's the spirit of creation of all living things on the Grand Cloud Mountain, born from the moonlight. Therefore, we call it the moon spirit. Wang Lu recalled what he learned in the Ten Cloud Hall in the past and confirmed it with Ling Yan's statement. There was no contradiction. Most of the immortal beasts in the 9 regions were not the result of the reproduction of normal creatures, but were born from the creation of heaven and earth. Because they possessed the characteristics of a certain spirit beast, they were classified as immortal beasts. For example, before the Age of Chaos, there was an immortal beast that jumped out from a stone. It was born with magical ability and was incomparably powerful. Because it looked like a spirit monkey, it was honored as the Monkey King. As for this immortal beast on the Grand Cloud Mountain, although no one could see its appearance with their own eyes, Beast Master School had been tracking it for a long time and had determined that it should be a spirit dog. Therefore, they collected the spirit of thousands of dogs and created a special beast collar to suppress dogs, trying to force the immortal beast out. Of course, in addition to this, Beast Master School had been chasing the immortal beast on the Grand Cloud Mountain for more than a year and had mastered a lot of information. This information was not enough to help them catch the moon spirit, but in the hands of Wang Lu and the others, it might have an unexpected magical use. From my memory, this is the map of the moon spirit's whereabouts that was jointly deduced by several elders. As Ling Yan spoke, her white and tender little hand drew a line in front of her, drawing out a translucent map of the Grand Cloud Mountain. Within it, red lines marked the moon spirit's whereabouts. Although it is an immortal beast, although it is the spirit of all living things, since it is a living creature, it must abide by the laws of living creatures. From the time its spiritual sense became clear until now, the time absolutely did not exceed 10 years. Therefore, even though it has the aptitude of an immortal beast, its strength is still very limited. In addition, in this past year, it was tired of escaping from our pursuit and had no time to cultivate, so its strength is very limited. Until now, it has not been able to transform. Using the standard of human cultivation, it is below the king pill. As Ling Yan spoke, she gradually recovered some of the imposing manner of someone at the peak of the king pill. When she mentioned the moon spirit, it was as if she was talking about a bird in a cage. She didn't care that in terms of origin, the moon spirit was much higher than her, a spirit cat. Because its strength is insufficient, its movements are greatly restricted. Even though it has magical ability and can repeatedly escape from our pursuit, after a year, we still found many patterns. Within this 500 li of the Grand Cloud Mountain, there are several places where the probability of it appearing is higher. Wang Lu earnestly looked at the map and asked, the nodes of the Feng Shui line. Then, without waiting for Ling Yan to confirm, he continued to infer, yes, it should be like this. It is the spirit of all living things in the Grand Cloud Mountain. Before it transforms, it cannot leave the Grand Cloud Mountain, just like a baby cannot leave the restraint of the umbilical cord. And it can, with its Shudon stage, play around with more than 10 of your Beast Master School Division's King Pill disciples and a Yuanying stage cultivator. Obviously, this is also because the entire Grand Cloud Mountain is helping it. But this kind of help is also traceable. In the final analysis, it is the nodes of the Feng Shui line. You are also clear about this point, but the Grand Cloud Mountain is a place that can breed immortal beasts. The changes of the Feng Shui line are mysterious and strange. It is absolutely not something that you group of beast tamers can grasp. Therefore, even if you know that the immortal beast's whereabouts are related to the Feng Shui line, you still can't catch it. You can only draw a few approximate locations and try your luck. While speaking, Wang Lu raised his head and glanced at the amazed cat girl Ling Yan. Is that right? Ling Yan suppressed the amazement in her heart. Just now, that inference was indeed correct. Moreover, that was the answer that the Beast Master School Division's elders had painstakingly looked through the information for several days. Unexpectedly, this seemingly young cultivator was actually so familiar with the immortal beasts and the feng shui line, easily grasping it at his fingertips. Of course, in the eyes of Wang Lu, Ling Yan's amazement was like a stupid beast that couldn't understand the realm of a top student. Then, since there is a ready-made result, Wang Lu said, calculating on the map and confirming a few points, there is no harm in taking advantage of the time to try our luck. As a quasi-immortal beast, Quan Zouhua had a resonance with the moon spirit. Previously, it was deliberately avoided by the other party, so they couldn't meet. However, if they could grasp the moon spirit's trajectory, they could wait for it to come to them. Guarding the other party's path, and when the time came, coupled with the resonance, it would be difficult not to meet them. In accordance with the location delineated by Wang Lu, the group quickly adjusted their direction and trekked through the mountains and rivers. The radius of 500 miles around Grand Cloud Mountain was not vast, but walking on the territory that the Beast Master School had been operating for more than a year, their speed naturally couldn't be fast. Xiao Qi took the lead with her staff in hand, using her unique spell to cover their tracks. Wang Lu followed closely behind, chatting with her from time to time. Xiao Qi casually asked, by the way, do you really believe that cat girl's words? I thought you've always been a person who doesn't believe others. Wang Lu looked back at the cat girl, who was happily talking with Lu Li, and asked rhetorically, if she lied, wouldn't the price be too tragic? If things change, I guarantee that she will be the first to die. Xiao Qi gently nodded and flatly described a simple fact. Wang Lu said, therefore, no matter what, she's still a Peak King pill cultivator. Using her life as a bait is a bit too extravagant. Xiao Qi also agreed. Previously, she said that she doesn't want to go back, that she can't go back. I can hear it. It's so easy to change sides. Should I say that she's indeed a treacherous official? And to be able to expose Ling Yan's treacherous official's character, that a Xia really has a skill. Xiao Qi's face sank. That person is not simple. I can see that, a middle-level King Pill beast tamer who can play with the Peak King Pill cat girl in the groin, how could he be a simple person? I believe that groin was just a slip of the tongue, right? No, I did it on purpose. Wang Lu said, stopped, looked around, and said, we're almost there. Xiao Qi was a bit curious. We're almost there? As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Qi felt the ground beneath his feet begin to tremble slightly. A moment later, the trembling rapidly expanded, and the mountains began to shake. The surrounding mountains began to rise rapidly, forming precipitous cliffs that caused one's heart to palpitate. Not long after, the few of them were surrounded by a layer of cage-like mountain peaks. The 5 mountain broken veins technique was used for the second time. Wang Lu didn't even bother to look at a Xia who was standing on the top of the mountain. He just said to Xiao Qi, now, we can let that cat die in front of us. Chapter 190. When the Beast Master School's 5 mountain broken veins technique reappeared in front of Xiao Qi, the woman's complexion was solemn and her heart was heavy. That Xia was really not simple. He chose a good time. Last time, when the cat girl Ling Yan presided over the array, Xiao Qi easily escaped with the equality of all living beings and the door of convenience. But now, it was difficult for her to recreate the miracle. Because just a day ago, she had just created a small miracle. Using the reincarnation method, she revived the cat girl's right eye. If she had done it with her peak Yuanying stage cultivation base, it could be said that it was as easy as lifting a finger. But now, she was just the incarnation of the King Pill, and it was already somewhat painful. At this time, her own magical power and the recovery of the Buddha's staff were not in their best state. But these were not the things worth caring about. Xiaoqi was very clear about her own situation. Despite knowing that her condition was not good, she still followed the cat girl's guidance and walked on the Grand Cloud Mountain. Because she always thought that the cat girl would not harm her. Indeed, cats were never known for their loyalty. However, in the face of a master who humiliated and abused her, in the face of a sect that she could not return to, did she have many choices? This had nothing to do with loyalty, but with value. Needless to say, if something went wrong, she would bear the brunt. Xiaoqi promised to let her die at the forefront, and it was not that she didn't have the ability to fulfill her promise. However, even so, the scene before them still happened. Perhaps the cat girl was not the leader of this trap, but to say that she didn't know about it, who would believe it? When the cat girl let the group of people walk into the trap without saying a word, she was already an enemy. To deal with an enemy, it was natural to let her die as fast as she could. Without waiting for Wang Lu's urging, Xiaoqi fiercely waved her Buddhist staff backward. The Zen light that was released was no longer soft and compassionate. Instead, it was filled with the sharpness and hardness of metal and stone. This staff swing had the power to split a mountain. The binding spell on the cat girl's body had long been activated by Xiaoqi, so she had no way to avoid it. She could only stand there blankly and let the angry Xiaoqi's staff hit her head. Bang! The delicate little head exploded on the spot, and a large amount of red and white matter splashed out. The girl's corpse was thrown out by the great force, and fell hundreds of meters away, deeply embedded into the rock wall of the 5 mountain broken veins. The broken hole was sealed by the falling rocks, and it looked like a natural grave. Xiaoqi killed the cat girl with one strike, but she was in a very low mood. She had taken the name of Zen Master Guru and had already taken thousands of lives, but this did not mean that she was bloodthirsty. On the contrary, her restraint and disgust towards killing was much stronger than many cultivators who claimed to be benevolent and righteous. She resisted the self-loathing in her heart and attacked. Although the power of the staff was swift and fierce, it was also conflicted. And it was this dilemma that caused her to unintentionally overlook something. Qinyang, to be distracted at this time, you're really a bold person with great skill. Wang Lu's timely words awakened Xiaoqi from her complex emotions, and then she found out that she had fallen into another trap. Just now, when she used her staff to blow the cat girl's head, naturally, it was stained with a lot of blood. She was in a trance and didn't think too much about it. However, now it seemed, the staff had been covered with a layer of dim dirty light. That cat girl actually used her own blood to put a curse on it at the last moment. Although the spiritual treasure was not destroyed, it could not be of any use for the time being. At this point, the equality of all living beings and the door of convenience, the sharp weapon to break the 5 mountain broken veins technique, had completely lost its effectiveness. Without Xiaoqi's spiritual treasure, how could Wang Lu and Lu Li escape from the hands of Taoist Master King Pill? However, Xiaoqi was not in a hurry, because Wang Lu still looked calm, and as long as he didn't panic, she had nothing to panic about. However, then she heard Wang Lu sigh, "Qinyang, when you and my master traveled together in 9 regions, did she often scold you?" Xiaoqi was silent for a moment and decided not to answer. "To be honest, you're really stupid. Just now, since you've already wanted to blow the head with your staff, why do you have to leave room for hypocrisy? If you blow the cat girl's body away and directly bury it between the rocks, do you think she would get up and say thank you to you? She would only get up and laugh at you for being brainless." Speaking to this, Wang Lu stretched out his hand and pointed at the crack in the mountain wall. A pile of rocks suddenly moved, and from it, a small bloody hand stretched out. A moment later, the cat girl Ling Yan struggled out in embarrassment. Her face was covered with dust and blood, but there was a smile on her face. There was both the joy of escaping death and the ridicule from Wang Lu. This. Xiaoqi frowned, recalling the feeling when she blew the cat girl's head with her staff. Although she used some skill, she absolutely did not show any mercy. The cat girl's head was also not fake. So. You still don't understand? One cat has 9 lives. How can a cultivator who has transformed into a spiritual cat be so easy to kill? She can be resurrected. Although with her ability, I'm afraid her cultivation base will drop a few levels after resurrection. But if you just killed her on the spot, her resurrection would just be one more death. Now, she is really free. The distance between the two of them was hundreds of meters. For a cultivator of the king pill level, it was not far. However, within the scope of the 5 mountain broken veins technique, it was like a natural moat. Therefore, Xiaoqi did not waste his magical power to try to pursue her. He just silently watched Ling Yan calmly move her limbs, and then lightly flew to the sky until she arrived at Xia's side. Beautifully done. Xia seemed to never forget that signature gloomy smile. I've decided to give you some reward. Hearing the word reward, Ling Yan's whole body trembled, as if recalling a horrible scene. Because of her death, her pale face became even more unsightly. However, the next moment, Xia just bent down, kissed Ling Yan's pair of smart cat ears, and then rubbed the cat girl's head. This seemingly gentle and kind action slightly reduced the cat girl's fear. If the so-called reward was just this, then, unfortunately, Xia immediately said, "Well, I'll give you the rest when it's over." The cat girl's fear came back to her heart, and the ups and downs of her mood made her so sad that she wanted to vomit blood. Witnessing everything, Xiaoqi couldn't help but feel a little nauseous. That guy is simply a pervert. As he said that, he felt even more unacceptable. Previously, she clearly said that she didn't want to go back. At that time, I clearly heard that she wasn't lying. Why did she want to go back to that pervert as if seeking her own death? Wang Lu sneered. She didn't want to go back, but she didn't say that she wanted to stay with us either. 2 evils are equal. Didn't she make her own choice? Xiaoqi was speechless. You've long guessed that it would be like this? If I had, I would have killed that cat with 3 surnames. Wang Lu said in a deep voice, it's just that I've never believed her, and I've always been on guard. Now that the situation has developed to this point, it proves that my worries are not wrong. Hindsight is still accurate. In other words, you have no other way? However, before Wang Lu could speak, Xia, who was still in mid-air, couldn't bear the loneliness anymore. We meet again? Wang Lu asked with a smile, still without malice. Xia nodded very seriously. Still without malice. Still the same request, I hope we can let go of our former enmity and bury the hatchet. Xiaoqi couldn't help but ask, you designed such a big show just to repeat the same old tune? Xia said with a smile, this can better reflect my sincerity. At this point, I still don't intend to have a confrontation with you. As long as you are willing to promise not to interfere with our Beast Master School's capture of Immortal Beast, the 5 Broken Veins Mountain will immediately be cancelled. Ling Yan and I will respectfully send you out of the Grand Cloud Mountain. Moreover, we will also present you with good gifts. This should be more sincere than the previous time. Xiaoqi asked, I really don't see what's the benefit of doing this. Xia said, my benefit is that, compared to having a confrontation with the several of you, if we can solve the problem peacefully, the price to pay is the least. I believe you have heard from Ling Yan that there are 12 King Pill Elders and 1 Yuanying Stage Great Elder of Beast Master School in the Grand Cloud Mountain. Their comprehensive strength is more than 10 times stronger than yours. However, this 10 times strength can't all be used on the 3 of you. Compared to that immortal beast moon spirit that comes and goes without a trace. Forgive me for my rudeness, but the 3 uninvited guests can only be regarded as a small interlude. This doomed us not to want and cannot invest too much energy on you. That being the case, instead of fighting to the point where both sides suffer, it's better to make peace. I don't know if this explanation is acceptable or not. Xiaoqi was silent for a moment, and then asked, that guy Lei Zhen, will he accept your method? He, Great Elder has a fiery temper, indeed, he won't be like me in handling matters. According to his instruction, we should do our best to capture the 3 of you and bring you to him. If we fail, we should kill you on the spot, and we should do it at all costs. Xiaoqi asked, and then, you dare to disobey him? Yes, compared to disregarding the reality and forcibly carrying out the order, the final loss would be disastrous and even implicate the important matter. Changing the method of carrying out the order, we can get a better result. I believe Great Elder will also accept my little disobedience. He really knows how to conduct himself and also knows how to do things. Xiaoqi could not help but sigh. If he was alone, he would most likely accept his condition. Compared to a lose-lose situation, although Xia's attitude was nauseating, rationally, it could be regarded as a better solution. As for the problem of trust between the 2 sides, it was actually not a big deal. The only problem was, would Wang Lu accept this kind of plan? Compared to him, who had been experiencing the secular world of 9 regions for 100 years, would this boy, who had only cultivated for 10 years and had always been smooth sailing, accept the plan of a person who stood on a high place and talked to him condescendingly? Of course not. As expected, Wang Lu's answer was not unexpected. However, his explanation greatly surprised Xiaoqi. Thanks to you, Qingyang, who was willing to talk so much nonsense with him, I am now convinced of one thing, and it is also this thing that prompted me to make my decision. What? That beast trainer is a waste. And I never accept a waste's proposal. Chapter 191. That beast trainer is a waste. Wang Lu didn't deliberately emphasize it, but he also didn't deliberately conceal it. His voice was not loud, but everyone present could hear it clearly. In mid-air, Xia's smile didn't change at all. However, Ling Yan, who was next to him, clearly saw that his hands behind his back slightly trembled, as if he was about to clench his fists. Obviously, his heart was not calm. What do you mean by waste? Xiaoqi could see that Wang Lu had something to say, so he very cooperatively continued. In a high-rank sect like Beast Master School, even after cultivating for more than 200 years, he's still only a middle-level king pill. If he's not a waste, then what is he? Xiaoqi laughed in spite of himself. Turns out you mean that his cultivation base is not high. You can't compare everyone with an evildoer like you. In 9 regions, a middle-level king pill can be regarded as a mainstay of the immortal cultivation world. Moreover, cultivation base doesn't mean everything, Wang Lu interrupted. Usually, only those whose strength is strong enough to really trample on the cultivation base, and who regard cross-level challenges as natural as eating and drinking water, have the qualification to despise the cultivation base. But that beast trainer, let alone cross-level challenges, even if it's a same-level opponent, he wouldn't have any advantage. In academic terms, he's nothing more than a 5-level king pill minus 3 dregs. He's a beast trainer, a wise general, so he doesn't necessarily need to be strong, that's right. So to put it bluntly, he's just a fox flaunting the tiger's might, a villain who relies on spirit beasts to show off his prestige. His powerful image is completely based on the humiliation of spirit beasts. You see, if he didn't play with that Peak King pill Ling Yan in the groin, who would think that he's strong if he's alone? About this, including the fact that he condescendingly used the 5 mountain broken veins technique to trap us, it's not because of his own ability. It's Ling Yan who sacrificed his eyeball to let 7th Madam use the death transformation technique. It's Ling Yan who used his life as bait to lure us into this place. It's Ling Yen who put a curse on his own blood essence to pollute the spiritual treasure. What did he do in the whole process? In fact, I'm afraid that the one who unleashed the 5 great mountain meridian rupturing art and used it as a deterrent force here was the other spirit beasts under him, not him. Xiao Qi smiled and said, to be able to mobilize so many spirit beasts and make Ling Yen, who is at the peak of King Pill, risk her life for him, it's quite a feat. Ability? Whose ability was it? He's just a middle-grade King Pill. What makes him think that he can make the cat girl, who's at the peak of King Pill, work for him? Is it because of his charisma and unique skills? Maybe he has something on the cat girl? How do you think he managed to get hold of Catwoman's secret? With his charisma and unique methods? Well, Wang Lu sneered, because of the beast taming school. He's a professional beast tamer of the beast taming school. Naturally, there will be an endless stream of spirit beasts being sent to him, so that he can use his means to get hold of their weakness and engrave an unforgettable pain in the spirit beast's body. Even if that spirit beast transformed in the future, and succeeded in its immortal cultivation, it still couldn't get rid of his control. In the end, he's nothing more than a parasite inside the body of the beast taming school. Crack. In mid-air, Ling Yen clearly heard the sound of bones breaking. That was the sound of Xia's hands, which were behind his back, being crushed by a tremendous force. However, Wang Lu still did not give up. He continued to talk incessantly. If he had the self-awareness of being a parasite, I wouldn't say anything. However, the sad thing is, the more insignificant a person is, the easier it is for him to inflate his ego and be greedy for vanity. He was unwilling to be a middle-level King Pill waste, so he used the convenience of being a beast tamer to bully the spirit beast, obtaining the pleasure of being a cut above others. Over time, he deceived himself so much that he really thought that he was a great thing. 7th Madam, you've been traveling in 9 regions for so many years, so you should have seen a lot of sects that have such disciples. Either their talent is limited, or their temperament is lacking. Their immortal cultivation is far inferior to their diligent and talented peers. However, not only they don't want to make progress, but they also abandon themselves to despair. They waste their time and energy in grandstanding. They sneak around, bully the weak, and fear the strong. When their peers were diligently cultivating, they would either get entangled in senseless fights, or linger in a place of debauchery. When they are short of money, they would even steal other people's flying boat, and then shamelessly say that stealing a flying boat is better than stealing a country. So, what's the difference between the behavior of this beast tamer Xia? Several times, he unexpectedly declared that he has absolutely no malice, and that harmony is precious, but essentially, it's just grandstanding. It's exactly the same as those people mentioned before. For this kind of people, we usually call them dregs. As soon as this long speech came out, even Xiao Qi was shocked. Through primordial spirit, he said, "You're amazing. You can actually analyze it so thoroughly and conclusively just through a few words of other people. But, is he really just a dregs with a small heart and a grandstanding dregs?" Wang Lu said, "I don't care whether he is or not. In any case, that's what I said. Rest assured, at least there's one thing I'm not wrong about. That guy is very arrogant. He's quite proud of his own way of doing things. And the more a person is proud of something, the more it's his reverse scale. Therefore, as long as we recognize this point and belittle it, he will absolutely not be able to maintain his current demeanor. And as long as his mind is in chaos, it's inevitable that he will reveal his flaws." Xiao Qi looked up. Sure enough, Xia's body had become extremely stiff. Although there was a smile on his face, it looked uglier than crying. "It's really unexpected," Xiao Qi sighed sincerely. "Wang Wu, that bitch, has actually accepted a disciple with a high EQ like you." Wang Lu said, "How can I have a high EQ? It's just that as a professional adventurer, I've seen a lot of such villains. As long as I figure out the pattern, I can see the ending at a glance. While the two of them were talking, Xia couldn't help but move. Well said. It's really hard to convince others to build a sense of superiority by bullying spirit beasts. When Xia opened his mouth, his tone became calm and steady, and he didn't show any sign of anger. So, in order to avoid being judged as a dregs, I have to build a sense of superiority by bullying fellow human cultivators. What a pity. I thought I could get along with you in peace, but it seems that I overestimated you. After saying that, Xia waved his hand, and then they heard a burst of beast roars coming from all around the valley. I'm a beast tamer, and I'm proud of my profession and skills. If you want to prove that the path I choose is worthless, then please step on me with practical actions. While speaking, spirit beasts of different shapes and sizes appeared one after another around Xia. The rank of these spirit beasts was not high. The strongest one was only peak Shudon stage, and most of them were middle or low-level Shudon stage. However, there were many of them. Moreover, since they were in the territory of the Beast Master School of the Grand Cloud Mountain, naturally, there was no shortage of array to help them. Not good. This array is like the 10,000 beasts array. Xiaoqi narrowed his eyes and recognized Xia's method. The biggest effect of the 10,000 beasts array, which was composed of a huge number of spirit beasts, was that the spirit beasts could be divided into 10, and then 10 into hundreds, making the huge number of spirit beasts as vast as the sea. Combined with the 5 mountain broken veins array, it was even more complementary. No matter how great your ability was, it was easy to be trapped in the array by the endless spirit beasts. Whether Xia was a claptrap scum or not, now it seemed to be clear at a glance. If we really fight, our odds of winning are not high. Xiaoqi calculated in his heart and calculated that his side would be fraught with grim possibilities. However, Wang Lu was neither hurried nor slow. It doesn't matter, let's fight first. Alright, even a middle-level foundation establishment cultivator was so generous and sorrowful, what could a middle-level King Pill Sr. say? Then let's fight first. Xiaoqi's spiritual treasure monk staff had been contaminated by the cat girl's blood essence, so it could not be used. However, she also had a lot of magical treasures. From her sleeve, she fished out an emerald green stick, which carried a strong smell of blood. Obviously, it had killed a lot of people. As soon as this magical treasure appeared, the many spirit dogs that gathered in mid-air instinctively retreated. Worthy to be Zen Master Guru, this equipment is really professional. As the top student of Spirit Sword Sect, Wang Lu immediately recognized that it was the dog-beating stick that was specially made to subdue dogs. However, in addition to the spirit dogs, there were more other kinds of spirit beasts. With a wave of Xia's hand, their figures immediately transformed. 1 became 10, 10 became 100, and then 10,000 beasts madly rushed down from the sky like a meteor shower. Do a good job in defense and slowly drag it out. Let's see what other cards he has. With that, Wang Lu's sword of Mount Kun trembled, and the invincible defense sword defense propped up, protecting Lu Li and Quan Zouhua within it. The next moment, ferocious spirit beasts continued to attack him. The first batch was mainly cat-type spirit beasts. Several leopards with thunder-like shining beards roared and slammed into Wang Lu. Their comprehensive strength was equivalent to low-level Shudon stage, and their impact force was equivalent to that of upper-level Shudon stage beasts. However, upon colliding with Wang Lu's non-phase sword chi, their roars came to an abrupt stop. Each and every one of them had their tendons broken and bones fractured, seriously injured on the spot. However, Wang Lu didn't even tremble, just as motionless as a mountain. After the leopards, there were several galloping one-horned giant green mantis beasts. These beasts were powerful enough to split open a mountain. Even those powerful peak Shudon stage cultivators of Beast Master School wouldn't dare to face them head-on. However, Wang Lu was still calm and collected. He silently operated his non-phase sword art and met them head-on with his sword of Mount Kun. He didn't even ask for help from Xiao Qi, who was close at hand. These beasts were as big as a small building. Like a meteor, they smashed down from the sky. However, as if they hit an invisible solid barrier, half of their bodies were squeezed into mud. Except for the ground under Wang Lu's feet that suddenly sank by 1 meter, his posture didn't change at all. This defensive ability was simply against the heaven's will. However, how could the 10,000 beasts array that Xia was so proud of be easily defeated by a middle-level foundation establishment stage's sword defense? The two collisions just now were just the appetizer. The endless beast tide followed closely behind. The impact force was getting stronger and stronger. Moreover, regardless of the casualties, the spirit beasts would rather be smashed to pieces just to hit Wang Lu's sword defense. Before long, blood flowed like a river and corpses piled up like a mountain. In terms of quantity, the number of spirit beasts that died in front of Wang Lu had already exceeded their actual number. Although Xia had summoned many spirit beasts, there were only 30 to 40 of them. After all, spirit beasts with Shudan stage strength were not a dime a dozen for the Beast Master School division. However, at this time, the number of spirit beasts that died under Wang Lu's sword had already exceeded 50. This 10,000 beasts array really does have its knack. Wang Lu lightly said. His non-phase sword defense was still unbreakable. However, when he spoke, the taste of blood in his mouth showed that he was not as relaxed as he looked. After all, he was just a middle-level foundation establishment stage. Facing a King Pill level array, being able to persist until now was enough to crush many people's worldview. In midair, although Xia had a victorious smile on his face, his eyes still couldn't hide the shock. The main target of his 10,000 beast stampede was actually that Zen Master Guru. When he designed the trap, he designed the opposite party with the strength of a Yuanying stage Tiger King. However, at this time, he couldn't even take down a foundation establishment stage cultivator. However, the longer the 10,000 beast stampede was activated, the stronger its power would be. If he couldn't use the correct method to break the array step by step, relying solely on brute force to contend against it, that would be a dead end. This vast sea of beasts was essentially the spirit mountain of the Grand Cloud Mountain. It was a large-scale combination of illusion and reality spell congealed from the spiritual energy along the feng shui line. Thus, it would never be able to kill them all. However, considering the mysterious origin of the opposite party, perhaps a long delay would bring more trouble. Xia was silent for a moment, and then his hand gesture changed. He decided to end this fight quickly. Roar! Along with a fierce whistling sound, the sky above the 5 mountains prison changed. 3 giant black turtles with golden shells and black clouds under their feet broke through the layer of clouds. Wrapped in flames, they smashed down. Metal, fire, thunder, and earth, the 4 elements combined into one. Its impact force had faintly broken through the peak Shudan stage, standing on the level of King Pill. Xiao Qi's countenance changed. He immediately swept the emerald green dog beating stick, breaking the tendons and bones of the dozens of spirit beasts around him. Then, his eyes flashed with golden light, ready to use the power of Taoist Master King Pill to block this earth-shattering blow. However, just at this time, a gust of cold wind blew behind him. Xiao Qi hastily turned around to block, barely managing to block this sneak attack. It was the cat girl Ling Yan. Although she had just been resurrected, the cat girl still had the strength of King Pill. Naturally, Xia wouldn't leave her idle. Xiao Qi had too many ways to defeat the cat girl. However, being entangled by her, he had no time to take care of Wang Lu. Luli took half a step forward, wanting to use her brilliant sword heart to block the attack for Wang Lu. However, she was stopped by him. The next moment, Wang Lu's eyes turned cold and his lips tightly pursed. His primordial spirit, magical power, and physical body, under the crazy operation of his non-phase immortal heart, suddenly erupted with power that far exceeded the middle-level Foundation establishment. His non-phase sword defense also stirred up like never before. The mountain-like unchanging aura became ethereal and agile. The unbending heavy sword of Mount Kun moved along with the sword intent, faintly emitting the sound of wind and water. Bang, bang, bang. After 3 collisions, the 3 black gold mystic turtle meteors made a sharp turn and flew in different directions. Then, they collided with the mountain rocks and shattered into pieces. Wang Lu himself, like a spinning top, madly spun, digesting the absorbed impact. Non-phase sword art was not only straightforward, it could also be agile and wonderful. At this time, Wang Lu's non-phase sword art had displayed its softness to the extreme. However, when the rotation stopped, his face still flashed with an unnatural blush. Using Foundation establishment to block the King Pill, how could there not be a price behind this miracle? After the 3 collisions, his non-phase immortal heart was almost broken. His primordial spirit, magical power, and physical body dispersed, no longer able to condense, and his strength plummeted. Wang Lu, let's go. While Xiaoqi was surprised that Wang Lu's non-phase sword art was better than his master's, he also urged him not to show off. For a gentleman to take revenge, 10 years is not too late. Not to mention with Wang Lu's ability, he could condense his Shudan in less than 10 years. At that time, it would not be difficult for him to challenge a Xia who was at the middle level of the King Pill. Why should he fight against the opponent who had the advantage of time, place, and people? As for whether he could go or not, with the Spirit Sword Heavenly Talisman, what was a mere 5 mountain broken veins? Go? If I go at this time, I'll fall into the opponent's trap. The other party set up this formation in order to force me to use the Heavenly Talisman to escape. Because if I go, it would take me a few days to come back, and by then, the action to capture the immortal beast Moon Spirit would have already come to an end. Not to mention, those who still want to save face would not be able to immediately come back and pester me. Wang Lu tried to adjust his breath while explaining to Xiaoqi. He knows very well that he can't really kill us, so as long as he forces us to leave, he would win. However, even with this kind of discounted victory, I won't give it to him. Xiaoqi was speechless. She was too clear about the mentality of the genius disciples in the immortal cultivation world. Without experiencing setbacks, they wouldn't know how to take a step back. In the end, Wang Lu's path was too smooth, and he couldn't turn around. If he really stumbled a few times, he would be able to learn the way of survival like his master. Forget it, this time, I'll let him be willful for once. At worst, I'll give up this avatar and save his life. You won't give me the victory? In midair, a Xia, who already had the victory in his grasp, could not help but shake his head and smile. In addition to the ability to talk, do you have any possibility of winning against me? While speaking, in order to strengthen his momentum, a Xia turned over another card. A red, blood-like demonic wolf appeared beside him. That demonic wolf had already gone through the form transformation tribulation, and its cultivation base had reached the high level of King Pill. At this time, it was in the human form of a beast, integrating into the 10,000 beasts array. Its comprehensive strength was even better than the peak of King Pill Cat Girl. And for Wang Lu and the others, who had long been powerless, this was enough to crush everything. Seeing the appearance of this demonic wolf, Xiaoqi's heart sank. She quickly turned to look at Wang Lu. If he still acted recklessly, perhaps he wouldn't even have the chance to launch the Heavenly Talisman. She must stop him. However, she saw that Wang Lu smiled again, and this time, it was a sincere and natural smile. Finally, you've turned over your last card. I've been waiting for this card for a long time. Then, he paused and his smile faded. You shouldn't have any other cards in your hand, right? In that case, it's my turn to turn over my card. From his mustard seed bag, a bright silver light flashed. In everyone's astonishment, a silver flying boat with smooth lines appeared in the valley. The next moment, that silver flying boat, like lightning, crashed into a black gold tortoise that had just been reborn from the 10,000 beasts array. That black tortoise had just appeared and didn't even realize what happened before it was smashed into pieces. This time, the destruction was very thorough. Wuxia felt a shock in his heart. Within the 10,000 beasts array, the figure of the black gold tortoise had unexpectedly disappeared forever. Wang Lu sneered. How could flesh and blood resist a chariot? Wuxia, say goodbye to your beloved pets. Chapter 192. How could flesh and blood resist a chariot? When the silver flying boat returned to Wang Lu and slowly landed in front of him, several astonished faces were reflected on its silver surface. In a difficult situation, it was not surprising that Wang Lu used his trump card to turn the tables in one fell swoop. Lu Li was even robbed of her position as the lead disciple by Wang Lu. But at this time, he used such a trump card, which was really beyond many people's expectations. Isn't this an official car? Because she had entered the state of battle, Lu Li's mind was particularly clear, so she asked a very sober question. Isn't this an official car? Wang Lu scoffed at this. You're confusing me with that group of fat bureaucrats. You can't refuse the treatment that you deserve, otherwise, it will make things difficult for your subordinates. But the same leader's treatment, whether you simply pursue senseless extravagance or enjoy life while making practical arrangements, this is the difference in realm. Well, hurry up. Under the restriction of the big heart demon oath, this flying boat can't be controlled by me. Taking advantage of Xiao Qi's dog-beating stick, Wang Lu called several people to enter the flying boat. At this time, the inside of the flying boat was no longer the original spacious and luxurious living space, but a machine room full of gears. The space was compact and dense. Rows of transmission pipes made of high-quality cloud silver were neatly arranged on the surrounding walls, which were flowing with dazzling brilliance. That was the liquefied immortal spirit energy, which was also the highest energy source to drive the flying boat. Wang Lu walked quickly, introducing and arranging the boat for them. This is the fighting form of the cloud wave boat. There's not much time, so I won't introduce it in detail. Now, Qinyang, go to the energy core on the second floor and continue to output magical power with the King Pill's cultivation base. If the magical power is not enough, directly take spirit stones from the reserve room. Xian Er, you and I will go to the command room. Through the brilliant sword heart and the flying boat, we can control the overall situation. I know you haven't driven this thing, but just treat the flying boat as a large flying sword. As long as you listen to my command, this battle will be won. Oh! If there was anything that Lu Li was good at, obeying orders would definitely be one of them. Before long, several people were in their respective positions. Xiao Qi stood in the middle of the energy room, each of his hands holding a set of cloud silver pipeline ports, urging the King Pill in his jade mansion to spin, sending out pure magical power from his hands to provide energy for the flying boat. Under the guidance of Wang Lu, Lu Li pressed both of her hands on a silver disc. A wave of wave-like brilliance flowed on the surface of the disc. Lu Li felt a shock in her heart, and then her primordial spirit was connected with the flying boat. The whole flying boat was like an extension of her body, and she could freely control it. For ordinary people, perhaps it would take some time for them to adapt to this kind of control. However, according to Wang Lu's words, Lu Li treated this smooth and slender flying boat as a kind of flying sword. The clear sword heart in her jade mansion swayed, and then she completely adapted to this flying boat. His primordial spirit resonated with the core of the flying boat, and the silver flying boat immediately shone with an even more dazzling light. "Alright, let's begin." Wang Lu, who stood behind Lu Li, patted her shoulder as encouragement. The silver flying boat entered its perfect state and began to move. In mid-air, Xia also took advantage of the few breaths of time to make his own response. He reached out to stop the eager red demonic wolf, and then operated the array diagram in his hand, making some adjustments to the position of the beast tied in the valley. The bloody scene of the silver flying boat smashing the black tortoise was too shocking. Xia knew that the other party had just revealed their trump card, so it was best not to confront it head-on with brute force. Thus, he tried to delay the time. This kind of chariot-like magical tool basically had the problem of continuous combat. As long as he could drag it out long enough, the victory would still be in his hands. Red 3, blue 5, black 4. According to the algorithm in the array diagram, Xia soon completed the adjustment. In the valley of the 5 broken mountain veins, a group of beasts was boiling. From the mountain forest, the river, and the sky, all kinds of spirit beasts came out like a tide. It seemed like they were staking it all in one throw, coming out in full force. However, this was actually just an illusion. At this time, the level of the spirit beasts that came out were very low. Most of them haven't even condensed their inner core, which meant they were just foundation establishment or even lower-level trash. Their role was to cover the truly powerful spirit beasts, taking advantage of the chaos to launch a sneak attack. No matter how powerful that silver flying boat was, could it really withstand the 5 broken mountain veins and the 10,000 beasts array and kill them all? In the midst of apprehension, the first wave of confrontation began. In the valley, a silver lightning flashed across. With the energy supplied by the King Pill level Xiaoqi, its speed was surprisingly a bit faster. And with Lu Li's brilliant sword heart driving it, it was greatly strengthened. In the blink of an eye, the flying boat had traversed thousands of meters. Were it not for Xia's timely adjustment of the array diagram, this sneak attack would have penetrated the mountain rock and severely damaged the 5 broken mountain veins array. However, Xia had the time to adjust the terrain, but he didn't have the time to direct the beast tide. Along the thousands of meters that the flying boat passed, along the way, countless spirit beasts were smashed to pieces. As the mountain wind blew, the valley seemed to be covered with a rain of blood. Damn, what the hell is this thing? As a cultivator of a high-rank sect, Xia had seen a lot of flying boats, but this kind of unreasonable, rampant guy was really rare to come by. While clenching his teeth and calculating the loss just now, Xia made up his mind to increase the absorption of the feng shui line of the Grand Cloud Mountain. At the same time, both the 5 mountain broken veins great array and the 10,000 beasts array were strengthened, and more spirit beasts rushed out. He wants to crush everything with absolute quantity. In the energy room, Xiaoqi sighed with emotion. With this flying boat of yours, it's indeed a lot more convenient. However, if we really continue to waste time with him, we can't possibly consume all the feng shui line's spiritual energy. Wang Lu used a copper pipe in the command room and said to Xiaoqi on the 2nd floor, "I don't intend to waste time with him. My time is 10,000 times more precious than his. Just now, it's just a test run. Now, we're ready to officially break the array." "Break the array?" Wang Lu said, "Although my attainment in array setting is not high, as the top student of Spirit Sword Sect, I have the theoretical knowledge to break the array. His 2 great arrays can be broken. However, breaking the 5 broken mountain veins array won't do us any good, so it's better to destroy his 10,000 beasts array. This array can use the spiritual energy to transform into spirit beasts. However, because the strength of the person who set up the array is not enough, there are many flaws in the array. Just now, when I used my non-phase sword to meet the enemy, I could feel that there are some special existences in the beast tide. As long as they are killed, they can cause irreparable damage. The black tortoise that we just killed is one of them. Xiaoqi said, simply put, it's to kill a specific spirit beast. Is it that easy to kill? Wang Lu said with a smile, of course it's easy to kill. Then he paused. Enemy found. 1:00, go forward. Yes. The girl let out a clear shout. Although she had no idea what Wang Lu meant by 1:00, the tacit understanding between the two of them allowed her to accurately understand Wang Lu's intention. She adjusted the direction of the flying boat and aimed at the panic-stricken thunder leopard in mid-air. That thunder leopard was known for its speed. Seeing the flying boat whistling toward it, it hastily launched its magical ability, trying to turn into lightning and fly away. However, unexpectedly, the speed of the flying boat was much faster than it thought. The silver light in its line of sight was actually just an afterimage. When it tried to activate its internal core, it found that the internal core in its chest had already been disconnected. The next moment, it saw that the part below its neck had been fragmented and turned into a rain of blood and flesh. At the same time, in the beast tide, dozens of thunder leopards silently disappeared, like a dream. Damn it! Xia clenched his fist and then madly adjusted the array. He was determined not to let the opposite party do whatever they wanted. In the beast tide, the core of the spirit beasts began to hide their tracks, deciding to temporarily avoid the spearhead. However, 3:00, go forward. Bang! A crystal-clear crystal bird of prey was swept by the silver light and was smashed into pieces. 6:00, go forward. The upper body of a dark ape that had just melted half of its body into the rock was directly crushed, leaving only a smooth cut on the ground. Then, blood gushed out like a fountain. 8:00, go forward. The silver light rushed into the river and penetrated a giant crab that was hiding at the bottom of the river. Crab row overflowed. Damn it, what the hell is going on here? Xia finally could not maintain his calm. He tightly grasped the array, completely unable to understand how the opposite party could so accurately find the vital point. Previously, he ridiculed Wang Lu and the others for only using brute force and completely not understanding the skill of breaking the array. However, now, the opposite party was actually breaking the 10,000 beasts array with the highest efficiency. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before the array would be dragged to the brink of collapse. On that guy's flying boat, there seems to be one of our kind. At this time, that red demonic wolf suddenly spoke in human language, reminding Xia. Xia suddenly sobered up and remembered that mottled dog. So that's how it is. I was thoughtless. Xia restored his calmness and immediately adjusted the array. Thus, in the mountain forest, a group of long-haired strange beasts began to howl and clamor. A strong and choking smell escaped from their pores, and soon, the valley was filled with a thick fog. What the hell is this thing? I'm struck by lightning, woof. In the flying boat, the stupid dog cursed and then fled from the observation room. Wang Lu shook his head and laughed in spite of himself. Don't be rude to Qingchuan. It doesn't matter. They thought that I only have Quan Zouhua as an observer, but they underestimated me too much. With that, he stretched his hand forward and placed it on the silver plate that controlled the flying boat. His primordial spirit and the flying boat were connected, and his line of sight suddenly became three-dimensional. In the valley, the turbulent flow of the surrounding spiritual energy, in Wang Lu's view, gradually showed its own pattern. Through the several kills just now, as well as his understanding of the entire array, Wang Lu has already touched the vein of the 10,000 beasts great array. Later on, as long as he relied on his void spirit root's exceptionally keen spiritual energy perception, he would be able to accurately grasp the vital point and continue to break the array. 7:00 direction, that wild boar with vines wrapped around its body. While speaking, Wang Lu communicated with Lu Li's primordial spirit, passing the target's position to her. Lu Li immediately understood and drove the flying boat to crash into it. However, this time, the flying boat's trajectory was interrupted. A red demonic wolf blocked the front of the flying boat. At this time, the flying boat was caught unprepared. Thus, there was a violent collision. The demonic wolf was sent flying more than 10 meters away, its figure tumbled in a sorry state. However, its eyes carried a cruel and complacent smile. Because, in the end, the silver flying boat was blocked. Moreover, cracks have appeared on that sharp ram, and its whole body has turned black. The cloud wave boat's surface was covered with a layer of refined cloud silver, which was well known for its sturdiness. Coupled with its super-high flying speed, even the black tortoise, which was famous for its defense, couldn't resist it. The demonic wolf was in the King Pill stage, and it had experienced the transformation tribulation, so its body was far more powerful than the spirit beasts of the same level. However, when it was hit by that flying boat, it felt its internal organs were dislocated and its jade mansion was shaken. If it was hit several times in a row, its tendons and bones would break. However, it knew that the flying boat would never be hit a second time. At the moment of collision, it stained the flying boat's surface with its own blood. That was the extremely poisonous corrosive blood. Although the refined cloud silver was solid, its anti-corrosive ability was really mediocre. At this time, the ram was only in shape, but the inside of it has long been rotten, so it was basically unusable. Not to mention that kind of rough collision, even if it flew at high speed, it might fall off. After all, it was just a dead thing. Dealing with the beast tide that was also lacking in spirit change was fine, but in its place, then. Just as the demonic wolf thought of this, it saw that the flying boat really retreated, no longer using its own body to collide. However, in the process of retreating, a turret slowly rose from the front of the flying boat. The next moment, while the demonic wolf was still in shock, the turret spewed out flames, and a huge thunderbolt fireball whizzed through the air and smashed into its face. In the midst of its pitiful scream, half of the demonic wolf's face was burned, and its arrogance was immediately dampened. At the same time, Wang Lu's voice sounded from the silver flying boat. We gave the enemy a ruthless blow. Chapter 193. This was a nightmare. For a Xia, who had been cultivating for 213 years, it had been a long time since he had a nightmare. When he first embarked on the path of immortal cultivation, suffering was often accompanied by him. He didn't have the luck of those heaven's favored ones, so it was impossible for him to be accepted by a high-rank sect or even one of the 5 unique of the Wanxian League. It was only by chance that he was accepted into a low-rank sect. In the sect, because of his natural dark brown skin, as well as his special facial features, he was ridiculed by many of his fellow disciples for having the blood of Kunlun slaves. Once, he was greatly ostracized. His master was also irresponsible. Not only did he ignore his predicament, he didn't even try his best to pass on the immortal path. It was not until he accidentally showed his talent, showing his superior aptitude and perception, that he was noticed by the sect leader, who carefully cultivated him. And he lived up to the expectation. From Qi cultivating stage to foundation establishment stage, he successfully condensed his Shudan stage at the age of 80. Perhaps compared to those genius cultivators, this speed was barely passable. However, in a low-rank sect, it was already a miracle. After all, excluding the wasted time, his real cultivation time was only 60 years. Moreover, a Xia's world was not that broad. He didn't dare to hope for the King Pill, Yuanying stage, and so on. For a time, he achieved Shudan stage and was flushed with success. After a few decades, when he thoroughly consolidated his Shudan stage and his master passed away, he would take over the position of the sect leader and live a carefree life for another 100 years. However, a nightmare came and completely interrupted his happy life. A heretic cultivator who happened to pass by the mountain gate, because of a quarrel with a fellow disciple, unexpectedly came to his door, wanting to exterminate his whole sect. That evil cultivator was a Yuanying stage-old monster. For a Xia's sect, it was like a natural disaster. They sent more than 100 cultivators to fight back, but they were still slaughtered overnight. The green mountains and clear waters that they had been managing for more than 200 years were turned into a hell of blood and fire. Were it not for the late arrival of the righteous cultivators from the union of 10,000 immortals, a Xia himself would have been killed in that battle. The one who saved his life was an elder of the Beast Master School. After a Xia recovered from his injury, he had no other place to go, so he joined the Beast Master School. His cultivation base was not weak. Coupled with his desire for revenge, he cultivated with all his might. He was also favored by the Beast Master School elder and was taught a superior Heart Sutra. However, a Xia always lived in the shadow of revenge. Whenever he slept or meditated, the scene of his sect's extermination would float in his mind. Not until he cultivated the King Pill for 30 years, did he purify his primordial spirit, and successfully cultivated his Tao heart completed. At the same time, although his progress was not fast, was also worthy. At the same time, although it was not. The sect that he first joined, although it was only at the bottom in the union of 10,000 immortals, it was also a prestigious immortal cultivation sect in the local area. The authority of the sect leader was comparable to the king of a country. However, when it really encountered a disaster, it was destroyed overnight, which was a huge blow to him. Xia had, but, but he could only continue to cultivate, hoping that one day, if he was lucky enough to reach the peak of the immortal path, perhaps he could find a sense of security. Then, the immortal path was interrupted in front of him. His aptitude was not good. The low-level King Pill was the limit of his immortal cultivation. No matter how hard he tried, he could not go further. The low-level King Pill was really an awkward position. In the Beast Master School, it was between the middle and the lower level. He had been cultivating for nearly 100 years, and he had to make a great overdraft to achieve this result. Naturally, he would inevitably encounter some ridicule. Coupled with his unusual appearance and gloomy temperament due to his past experience, his situation was even more unbearable. Everything seemed to have returned to the first few years of his immortal cultivation. However, this time, there was no discerning sect leader to help him. It was also at this time that, because his personal immortal cultivation path had come to an end, he began to serve as a beast tamer in the sect. In the Beast Master School, the spirit beasts that were trained by a special person were usually not bad. The first spirit beast that a Xia handled was a giant ape that, in just a few years, had advanced several levels and successfully transformed into a human form. At that time, when he saw that beast's immortal cultivation path was smoother than his complex mood was indescribable. Therefore, he couldn't help but use some means. When that spirit ape transformed into a human, although its comprehensive strength had surpassed a Xia's, the fear of beast tamer in its bones could not be erased, and thus, it obeyed a Xia's words. A Xia was not polite. He took that spirit ape deep into the dangerous place, trying to pick a spirit grass that had taken shape. He let the spirit ape risk its life to entangle the monster that was guarding the spirit grass, while he himself took the opportunity to put the spirit grass into his pocket. After that, the spirit ape was seriously injured and dying, but he refined the spirit grass into a pill. After taking it, his cultivation base advanced a level, reaching the middle-level King Pill realm. Thus, he suddenly understood a truth. A person's strength might not depend on his own cultivation base, but on his ability to dominate others. Just like the mortal world's emperor, with thousands of troops and horses in his hand, perhaps he himself was weaker than any of the soldiers, but he could destroy a country with a wave of his hand. Who would dare to say that he wasn't strong? The immortal cultivation world was the same. As long as he could dominate those strong people, it naturally proved that he was stronger than those strong people. Wasn't the so-called strength the ability to accomplish the goal? One's own strength was strength, and the strength to dominate others was also strength. And the beast tamer identity just happened to give him the best stage to display his strength. He didn't think there was anything wrong with this. For people with limited talent, if they wanted to go further, they had to resort to all means. At the same time, he didn't squander the sex spirit beast at will. Every time the spirit beast was sacrificed, it could always be exchanged for more benefits. After all, this was the professional skill that he relied on to survive, so he couldn't be sloppy. Therefore, the sex elders turned a blind eye to this. After all, what he sacrificed were spirit beasts, not people, so it was not unacceptable. Of course, the opposing force was not weak. Because of this, Wuxia rushed to the cloud region from the southern heaven region. If he could make a contribution in the capture of the immortal beast, the internal dispute within the sect would be reduced a lot. The path that he took would also prove to be a feasible path. Unfortunately, he met an unexpected opponent. When Wang Lu belittled his life's value and pursuit, his heart was indeed angry. However, it was only limited to anger. How could the idea that he had formed for decades be destroyed by someone else's words? If you want to prove me wrong, then defeat me first. In this immortal cultivation world, only strength is the hard truth. And under the 10,000 beasts array, what can the few of you prove? In your dreams. Then, a nightmare came. A real nightmare was not simply throwing a person into endless despair, making him powerless to struggle. Instead, it constantly gave you hope, and then shattered that hope, making you suddenly look back and find that everything you've done was in vain. What Wuxia had experienced was exactly such a nightmare. When the silver flying boat appeared, he was just surprised by the novelty of the opponent's card and subconsciously didn't pay too much attention to it. A mere cloud wave boat, in the face of the 5 broken veins array and the 10,000 beasts array, was just a flash in the pan. Its fragile structure could not withstand the impact of the spirit beasts, and its speed was not fast enough to get rid of the encirclement of the flying beasts. It could be said that this was not a wise choice. Then, he saw the scene of the silver flying boat crashing into a mixture of flesh and blood. Despite the appearance of the cloud wave boat, whether it was covered with refined cloud silver or the explosive power system, it proved that it was by no means an ordinary cloud wave boat. Thus, Wuxia immediately changed the array and did his best to deal with it. At first, he summoned the vast sea of beasts, but he found out that the low-level spirit beasts could not effectively cover the target. The cloud wave boat accurately uprooted the spirit beasts one by one from the array. Then, reminded by the red wolf, he used the smell of the long-haired beast to destroy the opponent's olfactory detection. This indeed caused the cloud wave boat to pause for a moment. Just when he thought that his trick worked, the cloud wave boat moved again, and the silver trajectory almost made him crush the array. In this critical moment, the red wolf promptly made its move. Although it knew that the opponent's flying boat was mostly aimed at the red wolf, it still resolutely made its move. Because before the battle, it had received Wuxia's promise that as long as it made a contribution in the battle, he could lift the shackles on its body and obtain true freedom. For freedom, the red wolf was willing to risk its life. It also once saw the hope of victory. The head-on collision with the silver flying boat proved that this flying boat was by no means omnipotent. At least, in the face of a king pill-level opponent, it would appear powerless. The red wolf could be considered as a first-class expert in the king pill level, even better than the cat girl Ling Yan. Under the cover of the 10,000 beasts array, perhaps. Then, just as Xia raised his hope, a deeper despair came. The silver flying boat changed its shape. A turret was erected in the front, from which it spewed out the destructive energy of thunder and fire, burning the red wolf into a sorry state. At the same time, the nimbleness of the flying boat didn't diminish. In the valley, it was like a lightning refracting back and forth, constantly looking for the weakness of the 10,000 beasts array, tearing and destroying it bit by bit. No one could stop its track of crushing everything. The flying boat's ram was indeed broken, but it was still easy to crush the lower-rank spirit beasts. As for the higher-rank spirit beasts with sturdy bodies, it naturally had the turret to take care of them. The turret that rose from the front of the flying boat was like a ruthless sword, again and again tearing and destroying the 10,000 beasts array. Its firepower was not particularly powerful, but it was still a disaster for low-level Shudon stage spirit beasts. Moreover, it spewed out thunder and fire endlessly, as if it would never get tired. The red wolf tried to approach the flying boat several times to stop it, but it was shot by the turret one after another, leaving it bruised and wounded. Thus, Xia did not hesitate to gather the remaining defensive spirit beasts in the array. Through the 5 mountain broken veins array, they blocked the path of the flying boat, trying to stop that silver lightning. More than 10 earth-armored giant beasts, as well as the swift as the wind, formed a line of defense, covering several key spirit beasts behind them. Whether it was the flying boat itself or the thunder and fire turret, it was impossible for it to easily tear such a line of defense. When the line of defense was formed, Xia's heart was slightly relieved. He thought that the flying boat would use its advantage of agility to disrupt the array. For this reason, he did not hesitate to burn his primordial spirit to refine the array, which sped up the action of the spirit beasts a bit. Finally, he was able to complete the line of defense. Then, in his horrified eyes, the flying boat's turret spewed out a flying sword. It was a magical treasure-level water element flying sword. The flying sword left a wave of water in the air, and then it hit the giant rock beast. The flying sword broke into pieces, and the hill-like giant beast melted like snow under the scorching sun. A huge gap suddenly appeared in the line of defense. At the same time, a mocking voice sounded from the silver flying boat. "We've killed the enemy, now we're looking for the next target," Wang Lu said to the spirit beasts who were shocked out of fear. "Tsk, have you ever seen a gold coin bullet?" Then, magic treasures rained down. This time, not only the giant rock beast, but even the demon wolf was within range of attack. Although the demon wolf's body was tough, it was still a dead end under the rain of magic treasures. It was not afraid of death, but it didn't want to die in vain. It immediately gave up the line of defense, leaving behind more than 10 giant rock beasts and the few remaining core spirit beasts of the 10,000 beasts array, choosing to save its own life first. It was a demonic wolf, a natural warrior, and also a natural hunter. When it wanted to run, few people could catch up with it. When it wanted to hide, few people could find it. However, the silver flying boat had no intention to let it go. "You've offended the abbot, and you still want to leave? How could it be that easy?" Without Quan Zouhua's sense of smell, the red wolf's magical power was also perfectly concealed. Relying solely on the void spirit root's divination technique, it was impossible to catch it. However, Wang Lu still had a last resort. "Luli, follow your intuition and fire." Thereupon, a high-rank magical treasure-level fire element flying sword went straight to the sky. Under the intuition of the brilliant sword heart, the demonic wolf, whose characteristics have long been memorized by Luli, had nowhere to hide. It wholeheartedly fled. Seeing that it had already escaped from the valley, and Xia was not far away from it, it never thought that its position would be locked. In a panic, the flying sword pierced through its tail and came out from its mouth, taking away almost all of its vitality. The last scene in its line of sight was a Xia's almost distorted face. In the valley, the sea of beasts dissipated, and the 5 mountains returned to their original position. Steam rose from the silver flying boat, from which came Wang Lu's voice. "Feel good?" Chapter 194. Wang Lu's question didn't get an answer. Because when he ordered Lu Li to stop the flying boat and enjoy the aftertaste of victory, a Xia, as the loser, had already disappeared without a trace. In fact, when the red demon wolf's heart was pierced by a sword in front of him, all of his calculations turned into panic and fear. In addition to running for his life, there was no longer any trace of distracting thoughts in his mind. He immediately launched the escape talisman, leaving behind the mess in the valley, and then fled. What a smart person! Inside the flying boat, Wang Lu was feeding the exhausted Lu Li an elixir while sighing with emotion. "If this grandson doesn't leave, we'll have to risk our lives." Lu Li, who was in control of the overall situation through the silver plate, more or less understood the meaning of these words. In the end, the cloud wave boat was actually at the end of its tether. After defeating the demon wolf, the steam that rose from the surface of the flying boat was actually the result of the evaporation of a large amount of refined cloud silver. This silver flying boat was indeed specially customized. In addition to luxury enjoyment, it also doubled as a vehicle. Even as a professional vehicle, it was quite sophisticated. However, its level was actually not too high. At most, it was only at the king pill level. Because when Wang Lu customized a vehicle, he always considered whether he could drive it or not. Although the power of a high-rank king pill or even a yuanying stage vehicle was against the heaven, its price was equally against the heaven. Even with the wealth of the wisdom sect, they were still under a lot of pressure. Moreover, even if they bought it, no one would be able to drive it. This time, thanks to the king pill level Shao Qi in the energy room, he fully supported the operation of the flying boat. Otherwise, with just Wang Lu and Lu Li, even if they were drained dry, they would never be able to activate the battle form of the cloud wave boat. Of course, in order to cope with emergencies, there were several high-rank inner cores stored in the energy room, which could be used as the energy core to supply the entire flying boat. However, how could an inanimate object be compared to a living person? When to increase the output and when to slow down, the operator would have to make adjustments in the command room. If they were distracted, it would naturally be difficult to fully control the flying boat. While he was sighing with emotion, Shao Qi happened to walk down from the 2nd floor. His whole body was drenched as if he had just been fished out of water. His whole body exuded a rich fragrance. When one's cultivation reached the level of the king pill, one's body would be tempered to an extremely high level. Even the sweat excreted from one's body would have an exotic fragrance. Moreover, Shao Qi's strength was also extremely high in the king pill. Her sweat was useless to him, but it was the best tonic for mortals. "I'm going to die from exhaustion." Seeing Shao Qi, Wang Lu immediately pulled Lu Li up and applauded him. Just now, Shao Qi worked hard in the energy room without complaint, and the magical power output was far beyond the total amount that a middle-level king pill cultivator could have, which could be said to be a great contribution. "Forget it, stop clapping for me. I'm not the real hero." As Shao Qi spoke, he sighed with sorrow. "You've really opened my eyes, you nouveau riche." "What are you talking about, 7th madam?" Shao Qi didn't bother to be polite with him, but went straight to the point. "How much did you spend just now?" Wang Lu laughed. "You'll feel distressed if you hear it." "I've already begun to feel distressed. Just let me feel the pain." Wang Lu said, "Just now, the battle took 1,300 breaths. In addition to the magical power support provided by 7th madam, I also need to constantly extract energy from the spirit stone warehouse. On average, I need to consume 10 spirit stones per breath. This is all thanks to you. Otherwise, I would have to extract the monster inner core worth tens of thousands of spirit stones. One is definitely not enough, but 3 or 4 is the minimum. In addition, during the battle, I also need to constantly consume refined cloud silver to maintain the outer shell. In total, I have to consume 15 kilograms of refined cloud silver, which is worth 15,000 spirit stones. When the turret fires the thunder fire, I need to consume 1 thunder fireball each time. The unit price is 30 spirit stones, and a total of 600 shots were fired, which is equivalent to 18,000 spirit stones. The last flying swords have different prices, with an average of 5,000 spirit stones. 10 shots cost 50,000 spirit stones. If you include the overall maintenance cost, then... Okay, I'm already very clear. Xiao Qi looked envious and jealous as he stopped Wang Lu's behavior of showing off his wealth. I've seen a lot in the immortal cultivation world, but it's rare to see someone as rich as you. You just throw away more than 100,000 spirit stones. I'm afraid that even the elders of the Beast Master School are not as rich as you. Wang Lu laughed. Why do you compare me with them? Isn't it obvious which one is richer, the small manager of a big company or the big boss of a small coal mine? Although he didn't understand words like company and manager, Wang Lu's confidence in wealth was still revealed in his tone. Seventh Madam sighed with emotion and asked, seriously, do you really not consider paying back the money for your master? Wang Lu didn't say anything and directly took out a mysterious sky crystal from his mustard seed bag. For the sake of our friendship of fighting side by side, not to mention paying back the money for my master. Seventh Madam, you deserve this. As a result, Xiao Qi was embarrassed to accept it. After hesitating for a while, he avoided the topic. What are we going to do next? This flying boat won't last long. It doesn't matter. I don't think we'll need it later. Why? Wang Lu said, because most likely there won't be a chance for us to fight again. First of all, our goal is not to fight with the Beast Master School people, but to compete for the immortal beast Moon Spirit. And on this point, we have made great progress. Our current location is the place where immortal beasts frequently appear. Although a Xia has set up an ambush here, the location itself is not a problem. Next, we just need to let the stupid dog concentrate on searching and find the immortal beast ahead of the Beast Master School. There's no need to fight them to the death. And in order to confirm Wang Lu's statement, Quan Zouhua barked twice as a support. However, Xiao Qi had a problem. Just now, the fight was so chaotic, it's impossible for the Beast Master School people to just leave us here, right? That's why I put a Xia back. Just now, when I seriously injured the demon wolf, I actually had the opportunity to keep him here. However, a stray dog is more useful than a dead dog. A Xia has spent a great price to set up this trap. Now, if he were to retreat in such a sorry state and go back to await punishment, it would be a dead end for him. He's an evil cultivator, so there must be a lot of opponents in the Beastmaster School. This time's defeat is a piece of evidence that can be used against him. His only hope is to redeem himself by meritorious service. Before the others pursue his guilt, he must make a contribution that can wipe out everything. Therefore, at this time, he will help us block the intervention of the other elders, and then dig out his own potential to the extreme, making a comeback. Xiao Qi frowned. He's not that stupid, right? With so many resources in hand, he can't fight you. Now that the resources are exhausted, and the loyal spirit beasts are either dead or injured, his chance will be even slimmer. But he doesn't have a choice. Otherwise, would he just watch himself being punished to death by the sect's rules? Moreover, just now, I scattered the cloud silver on the surface of the cloud wave boat in front of him, showing a bit of weakness, giving him a glimmer of hope in his despair, luring him to continue to take risks out of desperation. Just now, when the fight was so fierce, you actually thought of this? He can't even play a double game, how can he be a professional adventurer? Well, if I'm not mistaken, that waste should be hysterical right now. I hope he can be strong and stand up as soon as possible. F asterisk CKF asterisk CKF asterisk CKF asterisk CKF asterisk CKF asterisk CKF asterisk CK. In a narrow valley on the Grand Cloud Mountain, Xia crazily cursed everything. His hands and feet danced, and from his 7 orifices, a faint trace of blood seeped out. Along with his crazy roar, King Pill-level magical power overflowed in all directions, turning into a blade-like storm that swept in all directions. The rock walls on both sides of the valley were torn by this magical power storm, and gravel continued to fall. The soil under their feet was swept up and turned into a violent sandstorm. When the storm subsided, the narrow valley was widened by several meters, and the valley path was filled with gravel and dust. A King Pill-level cultivator could easily split a mountain, destroy a city, and destroy a country. If a mortal witnessed this scene, most of them would worship a Xia who caused all of this. However, when his eyes swept around, the depression in a Xia's heart didn't ease a bit, but instead, it became even more gloomy. Even with his full power, he could only shave off such a small amount of gravel. His King Pill level was really unworthy of its name. Although it looked like he was in the middle-level King Pill level, in Beast Master School, any low-level King Pill was a bit stronger than him. At least, what that young man who called himself Yu Lu said was right. In immortal cultivation, he was indeed a waste. However, a waste also has a waste path. Just because his qualification was insufficient, he couldn't simply stop immortal cultivation. And after countless experiential learning, he finally chose his current path. Although many people thought it was an evil path, one victory after another made him full of confidence. His path was not wrong. For someone with insufficient qualification like him, if he wanted to become stronger, this was the most effective way. He was a beast tamer, as long as he extracted the power of his spirit beast, it would be enough. And this was exactly what he was best at. A mere defeat could not explain anything. On the immortal cultivation path, who could always be smooth sailing? Among those experts with amazing cultivation base, which one of them didn't grow up from one setback after another? Losing to a local tycoon who drove a chariot and flew a flying sword was nothing to be ashamed of. Xia spent a long time, racking his brain to think of all the reasons he could think of, and only then did he manage to calm down his shaken mind after the defeat. It was really dangerous. Not long ago, when he used the escape talisman to come to this hidden refuge, his heart was filled with fear. The Tao heart in his jade mansion, which had always been calm, was on the verge of collapse under the great fear. This time, he lost too miserably. At this time, his state of mind calmed down, and finally, he didn't fall into qi deviation. However, the matter was not really resolved. After calming down, he needed to face the bleak situation at hand. After making a solemn vow in front of the Great Elder and the others, and mobilizing the massive resources of the division, he finally laid a killing trap. Now, if he went back with such a result, Tiger King was likely to kill him. Thinking of this, his state of mind, which had just calmed down, began to become unstable again. Thus, Xia took a long breath. Ling Yan, get your ass over here. The cat girl's figure silently appeared beside him. The girl's complexion was pale, and she seemed to be terrified. You're an incompetent waste. Where did you go just now? Xia swung his hand and slapped her face. His King Pill level power was unreservedly released. The cat girl screamed as she was thrown into the rock wall. Half of her face was badly mutilated. Chapter 195. She couldn't remember how many times she had been beaten by him. Trapped in the rock, the cat girl felt dizzy, and a memory from a long time ago vaguely emerged in her mind. At that time, she had not yet succeeded in her human form transformation. She was just a civet who had just stepped into the mortal world. Although she had been cultivating in the mountain for more than 200 years, and her cultivation base was not weak, and her inner core had long been condensed, as a spirit beast, she was actually just a beginner. Under the recommendation of several spirit beast seniors in the mountain, Ling Yan was fortunate enough to join the Beast Master School by chance. At first, the girl was full of joy and excitement because the seniors told her that for a non-human creature like her, if she wanted to cultivate, the best place to do it was the Beast Master School, a sect established by human cultivators. The magical method that many spirit beasts yearned for was not rare in the sect. Moreover, as long as she worked hard to cultivate, there would be special guidance, so that her cultivation base could advance by leaps and bounds like a human. In the mountain, she was the cleverest and sharpest hunter. She obtained the good fortune of heaven and earth, and thus began to cultivate. However, it took her more than 200 years to reach the realm similar to the human king pill. And for the same realm, a human usually needed more than 100 years. How could she not be envious? Then, in Ling Yan's expectation, she really got help from the sect. A human cultivator with a gentle and good-looking smile became her mentor. Of course, the official name was Beast Tamer. Although the name seemed a bit wrong, the simple cat girl didn't think too much about it. She was a spirit beast, and he was her mentor, so there was nothing wrong with calling him Beast Tamer. Before she met Xia, when she just joined the sect, there were several cultivators who explained the common sense of the human world to her, as well as the rules of the Beast Master School. Their attitude was kind and amiable, which made her sigh with emotion. The human world was not as sinister as many people said. Until Xia taught Ling Yan the real beast-taming course. Hell came. On the first day, no one knew where Xia found several wild monsters. Any one of them had strength similar to Ling Yan. They were the kind of opponents that Ling Yan would never encounter unless she was extremely hungry. And Xia's order was to defeat these monsters at all costs. It was not easy to win one-on-one, let alone one against many. Ling Yan immediately expressed her doubts, but Xia was indifferent. This is the rule of the Beast Master School. If you don't agree, you can leave. Ling Yan had spent a lot of effort to join the sect, how could she just leave like that? Although Xia's request was quite unreasonable, she still bit the bullet and agreed. As a result, he returned in defeat, covered in cuts and bruises. She once heard from her seniors that there were some cultivators in Beast Master School who weren't friendly to spirit beasts. In order to show off their dignity or to make it easier for them to manage the spirit beasts, they might give them a show of strength. If she encountered them, she had to endure it first. However, thinking about the fight just now, she was injured by the monster and her blood flowed all over the ground. As a beast tamer, Xia's eyes were filled with excitement. This made Ling Yan instinctively feel uneasy. Later, when his injury was almost healed, Xia came again. This time, he taught him a lot of useful things. After Ling Yan absorbed this knowledge, she once again fought with those monsters, but the outcome of the battle was already tied. After that, Ling Yan slightly relaxed her vigilance toward Xia, thinking that he was just an eccentric beast tamer, but after all, he was a real talent. Later on, it seemed that her impression was gradually confirmed. Although Xia's training was strict, the results were remarkable. Her progress could be said to be at a tremendous pace. When she first entered the sect, her strength was at most equivalent to a middle-level Shidon stage cultivator. However, after a few years of training under Xia, she was promoted by a big level, reaching the high-level Shidon stage. The condensing of the King Pill, the Spirit Beast transformation hurdle, was just around the corner. At this time, the naturally pure Ling Yan almost accepted Xia's command without any doubt. Even if he asked her to jump into the lava, she would think that this was a special training with a profound meaning and would not resist. Therefore, when Xia fed her a special pill, she swallowed it without even looking at it. Xia told her that it was a panacea that could help her smoothly pass the transformation tribulation. Ling Yan nodded and gladly accepted it. In her opinion, there would be no problem. Xia was just a weirdo, not a bad guy. Moreover, she was in a big sect like Beast Master School, so she didn't know how many people were watching her. After taking the pill, Ling Yan slept for 3 days. When she woke up, everything had changed. Her primordial spirit was engraved with a trace that could never be erased. It was not a panacea for crossing the tribulation, but a pill-shaped slave contract. Once swallowed, there would be no hope for her to regain her freedom. Legend has it that this was the most despicable contract. A long time ago, human cultivators used it to deceive spirit beasts as slaves. Until this matter aroused the anger of more and more spirit beasts, and for this reason, they did not hesitate to launch many riots. At the same time, Beast Master School and other sects gradually developed a new mode of coexistence between human and spirit beasts. Thus, this kind of pill that angered people gradually disappeared. Unexpectedly, after a long time, she actually fell into this trap. What happened after that was unbearable to recall. Being by Xia's side, Ling Yan personally experienced the taste of hell. In those years, almost every day, she had the urge to commit suicide. Until one day, Xia said to her, "Want to be free? Then work hard. Although the effect of the pill I fed you is extraordinary, it's not unbreakable. As long as you can advance to the deity stage, your primordial spirit can be reborn, and this kind of imprisonment can be easily broken. Even when you reach the yuanying stage, you can also use many methods to suppress the effect of the pill. Therefore, work hard to cultivate. When your cultivation is successful, you can regain your freedom. At that time, even if you dismember my body into 10,000 pieces as revenge, I have no power to resist." This strange hint made Ling Yan completely confused. Was this vicious and insidious beast tamer really trying to satisfy his own selfish desire, or was he just using a bizarre means to stimulate her motivation to cultivate? Ling Yan could only choose to believe the latter, in order to numb herself and gain the motivation to continue to survive. After that, her progress was indeed very fast. In just more than 10 years, she successfully transformed her human form and advanced by leaps and bounds on the road of King Pill. Later on, because of the sect's need, she was transferred away from Xia's side and had an official identity, as well as all kinds of rights that were almost no different from a human being. Everything was like a clear sky after the rain. And in this happy atmosphere, she spent quite a long time. Until today. When Xia's slap fell on her face, Ling Yan absent-mindedly returned to decades ago, the time when she was ravaged. She numbly crawled out of the hole in the mountain wall and respectfully knelt in front of Xia, as always. This was the most beneficial posture that she had learned through blood and pain in the past decades. Being beaten like a puppet would instead reduce the damage to herself. "Waste, you've ruined my important matter." However, at this time, Xia's anger was at its peak. Thinking of his current situation, a mere slap in the face could not eliminate his anger. Xia lifted his foot and kicked the cat girl's chest. Ling Yan screamed and blood spurted out. "Previously, I wanted you to tangle with Zen Master Guru at all costs, but what did you do? Why didn't you stop them when the cloud wave boat first appeared? After that, when I went all out to fight against the flying boat, why didn't you cooperate with the Red Wolf? Instead, you just hid in the valley, motionless." Regarding Xia's accusation, Ling Yan was speechless. Just now, in the battle, she indeed didn't go all out. However, that was only because she didn't want to die. Previously, she had used the trick of injuring herself twice in a row, so the damage to her injury was real. Her cultivation base from the peak of the king pill had fallen substantially, and her body was also on the verge of collapse. After fighting with Zen Master Guru for a few moves, her jade mansion had already shown signs of collapse. If they continued to fight, she would undoubtedly die in the valley. However, she didn't want to die. Therefore, no matter what Xia said to her, she turned a deaf ear. How could Xia not know this? Just now, during the battle, he issued several instructions to Ling Yan, but all of them were like stones thrown into the sea. It was an instinctive resistance that only spirit beasts would have in a life-and-death situation. However, such a reason could not convince him at all. You have to figure out your own identity. You're a slave, life and death are not in your own hands. Your master is me. Your body, primordial spirit, magical power, life, and everything else belongs to me. If I want you to live, then you live. If I want you to die, then you must die. Ling Yan's expression twitched. Facing her hysterical master, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What's with that expression? Are you laughing at me? Xia's eyes turned blood red. It seems like I didn't teach you a lesson enough. It's only been a few decades, but you've actually become so presumptuous. He raised his hand and released a king pill-level spell from his fingertips, wanting to give her a profound lesson. However, Xia's action stopped midway. If he continued to beat her, perhaps the cat girl would really die. However, even if he killed her, it wouldn't do him any good. Moreover, looking at her relieved face, killing her would be too easy for her. Oh, by the way, you've been with those people for a while. Tell me about their situation in detail. The cat girl's heart was moved. She suddenly remembered the woman named Wuxia. She remembered that innocent, kind, and pure smiling face. She didn't spend a long time with Wang Lu and the others, but she was particularly impressed by that girl. At that time, she was a captive. Although Wang Lu and Zen Master Guru didn't mistreat her, they didn't treat her well either. Only Luli, along the way, laughed and played with her, constantly teasing her, sometimes feeding her dried fish, and sometimes giving her wine. Although his actions were rather disrespectful, his sincerity and goodwill made her feel a bit of warmth. After so many years of immortal cultivation, there were a lot of people who were good to her. However, without exception, they all had ulterior motives. Some were greedy for her beauty, some fancied her cultivation base, and some just loved her because of their love for cats. There was almost no one who liked Ling Yan and treated her well. If possible, she really didn't want to be enemies with Lu Li. In the valley, one of the reasons why she immediately retreated as soon as the cloud wave boat appeared was that, at that time, Lu Li had already turned her attention to her. If she didn't leave, the two of them would inevitably have a fight. Ling Yan didn't mind being enemies with anyone, but she didn't want to hurt the woman whom she didn't know for a long time, but who made her feel warm. Xia gloomily smiled. Hee, it seems like the time you spent with them was not bad. That's even better. Now, I want you to go back. Go back? Yes, you say that you couldn't bear the humiliation, so you defected. Then find a way to win their trust and let them eat this thing. Xia took out a small purple porcelain bottle and handed it over to Ling Yan. I believe in you. You can do it. Ling Yan trembled as she held the porcelain bottle, not daring to let Xia see her expression. This was the first time that she smiled from the bottom of her heart. Chapter 196. Actually, I have a question that I can't figure out. In the valley, under the dim light of night, 3 people and 1 dog sat around the campfire. On top of the fire, there was a fat wild boar. As the fat gradually deepened, a mouth-watering meaty aroma spread out. Xiaoqi unceremoniously tore off a hind leg and asked while gnawing, "You took us through untold hardships to find this place, spent more than 100,000 spirit stones to fight with the people of Beast Master School, and then waited here for the hair to come. But, even if we really meet that immortal beast, what are you going to do?" Yes, I also want to ask." Lu Li raised her hand to ask, and at the same time, unceremoniously tore off a front leg. However, unlike Xiaoqi, the girl didn't eat like a bandit. Instead, she carefully used the sword qi on her finger to cut the boar leg into countless small pieces, put them on the porcelain plate on her knee, and then put them into her mouth with a bamboo stick, revealing a satisfied smile. This was the upbringing of the brilliant peak of Spirit Sword Mountain. Although the fourth elder Zhou Ming has always lamented his failure in education, his many years of effort to leave a mark on Lu Li's body still had some effect. Although the girl didn't understand the concept of a lady from a noble family, her daily behavior have been deeply embedded in her bone marrow. However, of course, there were also places that Zhou Ming couldn't take care of. While eating the barbecue, Lu Li forgot about the "don't talk while eating and don't talk while sleeping," thinking that I don't talk while eating, but while talking, I eat something while talking. Then she vaguely asked, "Yes, senior brother, what are you going to do to that immortal beast? Roast it to eat?" Xiaoqi sneered. "Roast it to eat? In your dreams." A Yuanying stage Beast Master School and a large group of King Pill couldn't even catch it. Even if you can find the target one step ahead of the Beast Master School, with your ability, can you catch it? Wang Lu chuckled. "Using brute force to catch it, that's the way of lowly people. I'm completely different from the barbarians of Beast Master School." Xiaoqi was interested. "Can you elaborate?" "To put it simply, we need to reason with them and entice them with benefits. First of all, our arrival is a great favor to it. Because according to the current progress, if we don't interfere and the Beast Taming School's Spirit Treasure Beast Taming Collar is completed, it most likely won't be able to escape. As for how the Beast Master School dealt with spirit beasts, it had stayed on the Grand Cloud Mountain for a long time, so it should have a deep understanding. If it could accept us, it would have thrown itself into our arms long ago. Now that it's hiding so happily, it's obvious that it hates the Beast Taming School to the extreme. We helped it avoid the Beast Taming School, so naturally, we owe it a favor. Secondly, in the end, it's impossible for it to stay on the Grand Cloud Mountain for a lifetime. The fame of immortal beasts is too great, and as a young immortal beast, if its whereabouts are unfortunately exposed, it simply doesn't have the power to protect itself. Sooner or later, it will be subdued by the great cultivators of other sections. So, rather than following the Beast Taming School, it's better to follow our Lingjian School. Food, lodging, holidays, 5 insurances and 1 fund are all provided, it's simply the industry's conscience. Xiaoqi was silent for a while. "I don't think it's that stupid." Wang Lu spread out his hands. "It doesn't matter. If it doesn't take the bait, then it doesn't. In any case, my goal has always been very clear. As long as I can destroy the Beast Taming School's good deed, I'll be satisfied. It's really a bitter hatred, harming others without benefiting oneself." Wang Lu waved his finger. "Seventh Madam, you don't understand. Harming others without benefiting oneself is because it doesn't know how to operate. If this matter is operated well, even if I can't get the immortal beast in the end, I can still get some benefits." "How to operate?" "It's very simple, find the media to hype it up. For example, the Spirit Sword Sect's brilliant disciple, Wang Lu, who is both brave and intelligent, compassionate, vigorously promote the humanitarian spirit, resist the pressure, destroy the Beast Taming School's illegal capture, and rescue the innocent immortal beast. Or the wisdom sect leader calls the immortal cultivation world to adhere to the idea of equality of all living beings, resolutely resist the beast-taming school and other sects' various inhumane and unfair policies against spirit beasts. Xiao Qi disdainfully said, "This is pure nonsense. It would be strange if you don't get scolded to death. It's obviously you who went to the beast-taming school's turf to destroy other people's good thing, yet you still say you're in the right." Wang Lu smiled. "I'm not afraid of being scolded, but I'm afraid that no one will scold me. For the bystanders, it doesn't matter who's right and who's wrong. Not to mention that the beast-taming school easily captured a young immortal beast, this kind of thing that makes people envious, jealous, and hateful. Is it really a good thing to see? Everyone just wants to see the liveliness and comfort. Therefore, I don't need to reason with people. As long as I can stir up their emotions and let them pay enough attention to me, my popularity will continue to increase, which will then provide an opportunity for me to extract benefits. And the operation of this is very simple. Compared to the beast-taming school, which has a lot of strong people, I, a loner, am naturally the weaker group. And the weaker group always has the upper hand in the hype. When the time comes, I only need to shout twice. Although my, Wang Lu's, cultivation base is not high, I still have a few hard bones. There will certainly be a lot of onlookers whose blood is boiling, loudly applauding. Then I can do some fundraising or simply establish a fund, and the benefits will be far from endless. Not to mention the sect's prestige points that I can get. Listening to Wang Lu's unceasing eloquence and grand plan, Xiao Qi was dumbfounded and nearly dropped the piece of fatty meat in his mouth to the ground. You're really a talent." Wang Lu was not modest at all. "That's natural, I'm a professional adventurer. In short, as long as I can smoothly meet the immortal beast moon spirit, then no matter what happens next, I have the confidence to make a profit." With that, Wang Lu was ready to seriously eat something. Just now, when he was unceasingly talking, Xiao Qi and Lu Li were not idle. In the blink of an eye, these two experts had eaten most of the hill-like wild boar. The most tender and fatty parts were almost all snatched by them. When Wang Lu was about to reach out to grab some tenderloin, suddenly, Bien at his feet raised its head. With a vigilant face, its throat issued a gurgling sound. Wang Lu patted its head. "Speak human language." "Oh, I smell the cat girl." Shortly after his voice fell, the cat girl Ling Yan's figure slowly appeared in the darkness of the night. The cat girl was a natural hunter, and she had a unique advantage in the dark. She walked silently, her whereabouts were hidden, her perception was keen, and her action was swift. However, at this time, Ling Yan didn't hide herself. She openly appeared in front of Wang Lu and the others, her small face facing the light of the fire appeared calm. Seeing Ling Yan, Xiao Qi looked surprised. He put down the boar leg in his hand and quietly touched the dog beating stick beside him. Although the cat girl was seriously injured, she was, after all, at the level of King Pill, so he had to be more vigilant. Lu Li was pleasantly surprised. She directly threw away the plate of meat and was about to rush over. "Ling Yan, you're here." Wang Lu grabbed the idiot and then said to the cat girl with a faint smile, "Are you here to die?" The cat girl opened her mouth but didn't know what to say. "Well, think about it first and make up a decent story. Don't tell me that you couldn't bear the master's humiliation, so you betrayed me. I think that's an insult to my IQ." The cat girl was silent for a long time. I really couldn't bear the humiliation, so," Wang Lu almost jumped up. "So you deliberately came here to insult my IQ?" "No, The cat girl looked away with some embarrassment. "I didn't lie." Wang Lu was about to scold her, but he heard Xiao Qi frown and said, "She really didn't lie." "Hey, Qingyang, you," Xiao Qi waved his hand and motioned Wang Lu to let her finish. "Think about it carefully." Even if you don't believe me, you should believe Lu Xian's intuition, right? When she saw the kitten, Xian's first reaction was to be intimate rather than vigilant, and I didn't see any hostility from her. Wang Lu froze for a moment and then nodded. That makes sense. Well, I'll give her a chance. The kitten over there, I'll give you the time of a meal. You try to persuade me. With that, Wang Lu put down the plate in his hand, sat on the stone, and looked straight at his opponent. His whole body exuded an amazing momentum, which vaguely crossed two realms and overwhelmed the king pill-level cat girl. Don't worry, think about it slowly. You can first introduce yourself, talk about your interests and hobbies, why you want to join us, and your future life plan. I'm listening. The cat girl was stunned by Wang Lu's series of questions. It took her a long time to sort out her thoughts and then slowly opened her mouth. I was indeed ordered by my master. Xia to deceive your trust and then plot against you. Wang Lu was not surprised and nodded. Go on. Actually, all of you can see my situation. Although my current identity is the Grand Cloud Mountain Division Elder and I have the King Pill cultivation stage, but Wang Lu said, but when your original master trained you in the past, he did something to you, so that you still can't get rid of the fate of being enslaved. The cat girl nodded sadly, acknowledging Wang Lu's hypothesis. This time, Xia asked me to come here and find a way to cause trouble for you. With that, she shook a small purple porcelain bottle in her hand and then opened the cork. A breath of death and withering spread out from the bottle. He wanted me to find a way to make you eat this thing. Wang Lu crossed his legs and reached out to support his chin, listening to the cat girl's story with interest. The cat girl's eyes flickered. I don't want to act according to his order, but I also can't disobey his order, so I came here. Wang Lu thoughtfully said, in other words, you really came here to die. Why don't you just swallow the poison in the bottle and get rid of it? Why dirty our hands? The cat girl said, I still have a glimmer of expectation. You expect us to obediently swallow the poison? Wang Lu laughed in spite of himself. No, I'm looking forward to her helping me. The cat girl said, pointing her finger at Luli. Luli was surprised. Me? I really want to help you, but if you want me to swallow the poison, it's a bit. With that, she revealed a distressed expression. Wang Lu sighed. You see, although this guy didn't promise you, she's really considering taking the poison to save you. She's so kind, yet you want her to sacrifice herself for you? No, you misunderstood me. The cat girl hurriedly clarified, I want to borrow her sword art. Previously, she told me that her sword art can cut everything in the world. Although I've never heard of such a sword art, if it's true, then, maybe it can help me cut the shackles on my primordial spirit and achieve true liberation. Hearing this, Wang Lu just chuckled, then turned around and knocked Lu Li's head hard. Bang! The girl held her head, tears almost flowing out. Senior brother, why did you hit me? To punish my bad disciple on behalf of fourth uncle. It doesn't matter how good your relationship with the cat girl is, but how could you casually talk about your cultivation method? Woo! I'm sorry, I forgot. Wang Lu rubbed her head again, then raised his head and said to the cat girl, since you already know, there's no need to hide it from you anymore. When the brilliant sword heart is used to the extreme, it indeed has the possibility to cut everything. However, with her cultivation, if she wants to use her sword intent to cut your shackles, it will probably take about 20 years, so come back after 20 years. No, I have a way. The cat girl eagerly said, there's no need to directly cut the slave imprint on my primordial spirit. The imprint has long been deeply rooted. Unless I can strip it myself, otherwise, cutting the imprint is the same as cutting my primordial spirit, and I will die without a doubt. But as long as I can cut off the connection between me and Xia, the effect will be the same. I beg you, please help me. I'm willing to do anything for you." With that, the cat girl even knelt on the ground and deeply bowed her head. "Are you going to give me a child?" Chapter 197. The cat girl obviously didn't plan this overnight. Now, she finally had the chance to break out. The effect of the pill that a Xia fed her was extraordinary. When it was first invented, it could be called the nightmare of spirit beasts. It could engrave an indelible imprint on the primordial spirit of spirit beast. Only by advancing to deity stage and restarting the primordial spirit could they have the opportunity to regain their freedom. However, although there were many cultivators in the world, how many of them could reach the deity stage? In addition, there were actually many ways to resolve the effect of the pill with the help of external force, but all of them were still in theory. It seemed like there were many options, but when it came to her own turn, she found that there was no way to go. However, now, the cat girl just happened to see a road, a steep road that seemed to have a thin line between the towering mountains. Brilliant Sword Heart. The cat girl's luck was really good. When she was a prisoner of war, she became good friends with Lu Li. The latter's mind was simple, so she inadvertently told many things that shouldn't be told to outsiders, including the many characteristics of Brilliant Sword Heart. Initially, when she heard Lu Li mention the sword cutting all things, the cat girl was somewhat disapproving. When it came to cultivation, she was not weak in the entire immortal cultivation world of 9 regions. With peak Jindan stage cultivation base, even in Xingjing sect, she could hold a certain position. However, she had never heard of the sword cleaving all things, let alone a mere high-level foundation establishment sword. However, when Lu Li enthusiastically demonstrated the sword art to her, the cat girl's jaw almost dropped. Lu Li found a puddle, stretched out her hand, and the puddle was separated by an invisible force. And then, after a long time, it didn't recover. Although it was just a simple move, the skill contained in it was not simple. Lu Li's sword chi didn't continue to output magical power, but the sword intent that remained in the puddle continued to split the water, and after a long time, it finally dissipated. The purity of this sword intent simply broke through her understanding of the way of the sword. Even though she was a peak king pill cultivator and had studied the way of the sword for a period of time, it was impossible for her to maintain the sword intent that left her body for such a long time. After seeing this scene, the cat girl was convinced of Lu Li's brilliant sword heart. Then, she naturally thought of the slave imprint on her primordial spirit. Perhaps with Lu Li's current cultivation base, she was still unable to peel off the engraving and cut it off. However, Enlightened Sword Heart was clearly an immortal level cultivation technique, and its level was too high. Even if the sword intent cultivated from Enlightened Sword Heart was weak, it was extraordinarily pure, and had all kinds of unimaginable wonders. This made the cat girl see an opportunity. Of course, no one could guarantee that this trick would work before personally experiencing it. Perhaps hope would be followed by disappointment, but cat girl still decided to take the gamble. For this, she could really do anything. "Well, your sincerity is not bad, but to be honest, I don't have much use for you." Wang Lu looked at the kneeling cat in amusement. "If you were at the peak of the king pill, you might have been of some use. But now that you're heavily injured and have less than 10% of your strength, what use are you? To warm the bed? But you're not that pretty." The cat girl was stunned for a moment before despair filled her heart. Indeed, with his crippled body, even if he gave up everything, how much would it be worth in the eyes of others? Perhaps his cultivation base was not high, but how could cat girl not see that his background was extraordinary? That cloud wave boat alone, which could double as a chariot, was not something that ordinary cultivators could afford. Moreover, the cultivation method he cultivated and the strength that far exceeded his cultivation realm showed that he was extraordinary. Celestial Water Lakes You family? Even if the cat girl was stupid, she wouldn't believe it. Wang Lu was obviously a disciple of those real rich and powerful families. And for those rich and powerful families, a mere king pill level cat girl was indeed not qualified to enter their eyes. But she had no other way. Senior brother, let's help her, okay? In despair, a voice of nature came to the ears of the cat girl. Wang Lu sighed. Do you want to be a small animal rights advocate? There's really no future in this line of work. You can't give up just because you have a low IQ. Luli didn't understand what Wang Lu said, but she was too clear on how to deal with Wang Lu. Senior brother, I beg you, okay? Wang Lu felt a chill from the 9th level of the abyss welling up in his heart. His bones and even his primordial spirit were about to be frozen. Don't act like a spoiled child. Will you please, *CK, do whatever you want, your father, am going to wash my ears. Wang Lu got up and walked away, no longer paying attention to Luli, who was still smiling foolishly. After Wang Lu left, Luli made a victory gesture. I won. The cat girl just smiled wryly, but inwardly, she was extremely envious of the relationship between this pair of martial brother and sister. In her 300 years of cultivation, she had never met someone who cherished and cared for her so much. Just now, although Wang Lu seemed to be disgusted with Luli and never soft-hearted in teaching her a lesson, but toward this naive junior sister, he also cherished and cared for her to the extreme. The cat girl still remembered that in the valley battle, his non-phase sword defense firmly encircled Luli, not letting her suffer even the slightest bit of danger. Then, tell me what to do, Luli said, and then the magical power in her jade mansion began to circulate. Her clear sword heart also shone. The cat girl took a deep breath and also raised her magical power. In her jade mansion, the scarred and cracked king pill slowly rotated, emitting a dazzling brilliance, which made the jade mansion even brighter. And in the midst of that dazzling brilliance, a purple figure hazily appeared in the middle of the jade mansion. Around the king pill, a round king pill was wrapped. That was the cat girl's highly condensed primordial spirit. Starting from the foundation establishment stage, the primordial spirit spread throughout the jade mansion and the body. Then it gradually condensed and shrank until it was gathered inside the jade mansion, reaching the level of the king pill. Then, the primordial spirit was further condensed until it coincided with the king pill, which could trigger an inconceivable mysterious miraculous effect, making the king pill obtain the characteristics of a living creature, transforming into a yuanying. With the peak king pill cultivation base of the cat girl, the condensation of her primordial spirit was not too far away from the yuanying stage. At this time, the primordial spirit manifested, and one could even clearly see the outline of the cat girl's light purple primordial spirit. Can you see it? The cat girl lightly said. She knew that with Luli's brilliant sword heart, she would definitely be able to see it. Sure enough, Luli slightly tilted her head. There seems to be a strange engraving, all over the primordial spirit. Do you want me to remove this engraving? Wait a moment, I'll prepare it. With that, a sparkling and translucent crystal sword flew out from her sleeve. The girl flicked her wrist, and the flying sword spun in a circle and then shrank to the size of an embroidery needle. With a serious face, Luli held the flying sword, took a few steps forward, and then raised her hand to stab it. The cat girl felt her primordial spirit was shaken, and then there was an intense pain that made her lose her mind. The pain was so strong that even the rotating king pill was almost derailed. The cat girl was shocked. What are you doing? Don't rush to do it. Luli withdrew her flying sword and curiously said, Don't you want me to help you remove the engraving? Can you do it? The cat girl was in disbelief. Luli looked up, thought for a moment, sighed, and then said with disappointment, "Yes, should not be able to do it." "Then why did you do it?" Lu Li comforted her, "It doesn't matter. When I condense my Shudan, should have enough exquisite control." The cat girl burst into tears, thinking that although Sister Xian Er was cute, her IQ was too scary. Just now, her flying sword almost cracked my primordial spirit. How about this? I don't need you to directly remove the engraving on my primordial spirit. I just need you to leave a sword intent on my primordial spirit to cut off all external interference for me. Lu Li was surprised. Leave a sword intent on your primordial spirit? Is that okay? Master said that it's very impolite. It doesn't matter, you're helping me. Listen, in a moment, I need you to condense the sword intent in this way. The cat girl earnestly explained her request to Lu Li while staring at the other side motionlessly. Lu Li's eyebrows tightly knitted, but after a moment, they gradually relaxed. I understand, it's not that difficult. The cat girl's heart suddenly jumped. If Lu Li showed a difficult expression, she would be a bit relieved, because for this moment, she had already made a lot of preparations. Through various external aids, she should be able to let Lu Li's sword intent play a role. However, she readily agreed, which instead made the cat girl doubt whether Lu Li understood what she wanted. Isn't that it? It's very simple. With that, Lu Li's finger, as fast as lightning, pointed at the cat girl's forehead. The next moment, the cat girl's vision turned black. It was as if she saw a sword piercing the sky into her jade mansion, pointing straight at her primordial spirit. That was Lu Li's sword intent. Different from the casual move, in the cat girl's internal view, a gorgeous sword flashing with 7 colored rays of light was like a towering mountain, majestically standing in her jade mansion. That sword intent was half real and half illusory, yet it completely enveloped her jade mansion. What was even more rare was that, although the sword intent looked like a cage, it didn't hinder the cat girl's breathing, allowing the surrounding spiritual energy to flow in and out. However, in addition to the surrounding spiritual energy, all external objects would be cut off by the sword intent, forming a perfect barrier. Of course, the strength of the sword intent was limited. Perhaps a random spell could destroy this sword intent. However, the connection between the slave imprint and a xia was just a wisp of thought, so its strength was not high. It was just that the way it existed was too mysterious, making it difficult to be cut off by common spells. However, with the sword intent left by Lu Li, that connection would be broken. Although the cat girl's slave identity would remain unchanged, she didn't need to accept anyone's command. In fact, it was no different from regaining her freedom. This was the plan that she had been planning for many years. The cat girl closed her eyes and carefully felt around her primordial spirit. She felt that the suppression force had disappeared. Then, she took a deep breath and shouted with all her strength. "I'm free." The sharp voice reverberated in the valley and was soon swallowed by the deep night. However, when the declaration came out, the comfortable feeling that came from the inside out didn't disappear. That was the relaxation that the cat girl had not felt for decades, as if the shackles that had shackled her for many years had been removed. If the slave imprint was still in effect, it would be impossible for her to declare her freedom so easily just now. Being able to openly declare her freedom was the proof that the slave contract had been broken. Although the engraved mark on her primordial spirit was still clear, the cat girl knew that she was really free. Looking at the smiling face of Lu Li, the cat girl opened her mouth, but found out that the words of gratitude that she had brewed could not come out. How could such a heavy debt of gratitude be expressed in words? Her line of sight was gradually blurred by a warm feeling. However, at this time, Wang Lu's inopportune voice came in. "Yo, it's done. Then let's talk about the reward. According to what you said, you're going to give birth to a cow and a horse for me, right? Right, your sister. Chapter 198. Tsk, you're really a cat that bites the hand that feeds you. I spent so much effort to help you fight for your freedom, and this is how you repay me? The cat girl was so angry that her whiskers trembled. Don't you have any shame? From the beginning to the end, you didn't do anything. It was you Xian who helped me cut the shackles, it has nothing to do with you. Ridiculous. I am Xian Er's senior brother and guardian, in other words, her leader. The subordinate's credit is the leader's credit, you tell me, it has nothing to do with me. You what? What kind of attitude do you have towards your leader? Wang Lu unceremoniously pulled the cat girl's whiskers, causing her to grimace in pain. In short, you're going to give birth to a cow and a horse for us now. But considering that your origin is relatively poor, spirit beast, after all. Your cultivation base is also average, it's already at the first level of King Pill -15. Your cultivation method is only high, and your IQ doesn't have any advantage. The cat girl said, hey, are you done yet? In short, with your qualification, you're not qualified to follow me, so you're going to give birth to a cow and a horse for her. Your IQ is relatively close, so reproductive isolation shouldn't be that serious. With that, Wang Lu pointed at Luli who was still foolishly smiling. The cat girl repeatedly nodded. Yes. Her pair of cat eyes couldn't help but flash with joy. Well, since the personnel arrangement has been decided, let's talk about the business. Wang Lu gradually restrained his relaxed demeanor and pointed at the bright moon in the sky. Tell us what you didn't finish last time. The cat girl's eyes narrowed, and she inwardly sighed, this guy really saw it. Last time, as a prisoner of war, she did leak a lot of internal information of Beast Master School, but obviously, she also hid some key information. However, the last time she leaked the secret, it could be said that she was carrying out a Xia's strategy, so all the responsibility was a Xia. But now, if she really revealed the internal secret of Beast Master School, it meant that she would completely break off with Beast Master School. So, what would Cat Girl's choice be? No problem, I do have a few important things to tell you. Cat Lady did not hesitate at all. Indeed, it was the Beast Master School that taught her a superior cultivation method. It was also the Beast Master School's training that allowed her to climb from the Shudan stage all the way to the peak of the King Pill stage in just a few decades. There was even hope for her to advance to the nascent soul stage. The Beast Taming School really gave her a lot of things. But on the other hand, in the 300 years of her life, the most painful time was also concentrated in the Beast Taming School. Indeed, the one who pushed her into the abyss was a Xia, but who was the one who cultivated a Xia? Who was the one who watched her suffer and did nothing? Who was the one who allowed a Xia to wantonly squeeze spirit beasts? The cat girl didn't want to follow the trend and talk about the system. There were indeed many merciful cultivators in the Beast Taming School, but unfortunately, she didn't meet any of them. She was heartbroken by the Beast Taming School and didn't want to have anything to do with it anymore. Regarding the immortal beast Moon Spirit, the core secret has never been exposed to me. However, as the elder of the peak of the King Pill stage, it's impossible for me not to know about it. The cat girl said, stretched out her hand to stroke her beard, and then said with a sinking voice, for example, our Beast Taming School has been stationed in the Grand Cloud Mountain for more than a year, but actually, no one has ever seen the appearance of the Moon Spirit. No one has ever seen it with their own eyes. There are plenty of indirect proof of its existence. Some people have even seen its vague back from afar, but no one has ever encountered it. Moreover, the way it appears is also very strange. It comes and goes like a ghost. Sometimes, it almost simultaneously appears hundreds of miles away. Although most immortal beasts have extraordinary magical ability, it has not yet formalized its form, yet it already has this kind of magical ability, which is really unheard of. Let alone our beast-taming school team is not weak. Could it be that the Yuanying stage Great Elder can't even see the immortal beast? Wang Lu didn't rush to ridicule the other side, but instead asked, "Then what's your speculation?" The cat girl said, "Perhaps it's because I'm a spirit beast, but I have a deeper feeling towards the myriad things in the world of the Grand Cloud Mountain. After living here for a long time, I can faintly feel that this world seems to be nurturing something." The cat girl said and then paused, giving Wang Lu time to digest and absorb the information. However, just as she was about to open her mouth and continue to speak her speculation, Wang Lu beat her to it and said, "In other words, you suspect that the moon spirit hasn't truly formed, right?" The cat girl didn't know how many times she had marveled at the other party's comprehension ability. She numbly nodded and said, "Yes, the immortal beast of the Grand Cloud Mountain is the spirit of the myriad things in the world, enlightened by the moonlight. In summary, the records of its previous appearances are all concentrated in the places where the moonlight's power is strong. Therefore, I think it's possible that it hasn't truly formed, and is currently still the spirit of the myriad things in the Grand Cloud Mountain. Therefore, it can appear and disappear like a ghost. As long as it's within the boundary of the Grand Cloud Mountain, it can appear in any location, because as an individual, it hasn't completely become independent." Wang Lu said, "So what's your conclusion?" The cat girl said, "My conclusion is that in a few days, on the 15th day of the 7th month, it will probably be the time when it officially takes shape. It is also the day when the immortal beast transforms into human form." Wang Lu was startled, but then he immediately recalled what he learned in the Ten Cloud Hall, the 15th day of the 7th month, the Zhongyuan Ghost Festival, the Emperor Essence. Every 60 years, there would be a great change in the world, and the essence of the moonlight would fall from the sky like a river, like thousands of golden threads. That day was the grandest ceremony for the monsters who absorbed the moonlight to attain the Tao. Since the immortal beast of the Grand Cloud Mountain was enlightened by the moonlight, how could it miss this festival? He then heard the cat girl say, "Of course, if I can think of this problem, I believe that the other elders can also think of it. The Great Elder will lead the people to refine the spiritual treasure, and it will be completed in a few days. Most likely, it will be done before the 15th day of the 7th month." Wang Lu asked, "There is a problem. The Grand Cloud Mountain is not big, but with the power of the Beast Master School, it is impossible for them to tightly seal off every inch of land. But that moon spirit is born with supernatural power. If it wants to hide, it should be very difficult for people to detect it. When the time comes, if it hides in the dark and silently absorbs the Emperor Essence, then it will transform. Beast Master School's plan for more than a year will go down the drain. Regarding this problem, what do you think?" The cat girl said, "It should be relying on the Spirit Beast Collar. It is a spiritual treasure level Spirit Beast Collar, plus it is deliberately refined for the canine Spirit Beast. As long as the refining is successful before the 15th day of the 7th month, the power of the spiritual treasure can be spread over the majority of the Grand Cloud Mountain. No matter where it appears, its fate will be the same. So that's how it is. It is indeed worthy of being called a spiritual treasure." No wonder the Beast Master School's guard was not very strict along the way. I thought they would at least guard the sensitive areas where the moon spirit frequently appears. The cat girl shook her head and said, "Not only that, in fact, in the last few months, the moon spirit has not appeared again, as if it has sensed something. Therefore, we don't want to waste time monitoring its movements." Not appearing again? That doesn't make sense. The closer it is to the transformation, the more it should absorb the essence of the moon to enrich its reserves in order to deal with the tribulation of transformation. Even if it is an immortal beast, this principle shouldn't change. The cat girl revealed a confused expression, This I don't know." Wang Lu was silent for a moment, then said, "Draw the previous map again." The cat girl reached out her hand, and a map of the Grand Cloud Mountain emerged. The records of the moon spirit's appearance were marked on it, and most of them were on mountain peaks or empty valleys. Wang Lu looked at it for a while, then suddenly pointed at a place on the map and asked, "What about here? Has it ever appeared?" The cat girl looked at it. "Green Lake? I'm not sure. That place is already at the edge of the Grand Cloud Mountain. Moreover, the surrounding mountains are undulating, and there are no high peaks. The forest is also very dense, so it is difficult to effectively gather the essence of the moon. Therefore, I didn't pay too much attention to that place." Wang Lu sighed, "Then pay attention to it. Without further ado, let's set off." The cat girl was surprised. "Aren't we going to wait here?" "Yes, that's why you wait here slowly. Remember to give birth to cows and horses." "Hey!" Wang Lu's movements were extremely fast. He didn't even clean up the traces of the bonfire before he directly set off for the Green Lake in a hurry. Xiao Qi and the others followed behind him. Although they were puzzled, no one opened their mouth to ask. Although in this group, Wang Lu's cultivation was the lowest, there was no need to doubt his authority. Before long, under the cover of Xiao Qi's spell, the group passed through several lines of defense of the Beast Master School, left the interior of the Grand Cloud Mountain, and arrived at the bank of the Green Lake. And when they saw the Green Lake, everyone understood Wang Lu's intention. On the surface of the lake, a bright moon was reflected. The bright moonlight gathered on the surface of the lake, and the rich essence of the moon seemed to be able to seep into the body with just a breath. "Well, do you understand?" Wang Lu smiled mockingly. "No wonder you guys couldn't accomplish anything for more than a year. Your IQ is really lacking." The cat girl was speechless. It wasn't that they hadn't come to this Green Lake before, but at that time the density of the moonlight wasn't high, so they didn't pay much attention to it. But now it seemed that while the Beast Master School was careless, the moon spirit had quietly completed its own arrangement, transforming this place into an excellent place to collect moonlight. Such rich essence of the moon couldn't have been naturally produced. "Well, although we haven't seen the true body of the moon spirit, I believe that it has been concentrating on storing moonlight near the Green Lake." After saying this, Wang Lu directly lay down on the grass by the lake. "Now, we just have to wait patiently for it to appear." However, just as Wang Lu lay down, a gray shadow dashed out from beside him. It jumped high up on the lakeside, and then with a splash, it fell into the lake, smashing the calm surface of the lake into tens of thousands of silver scales. With great astonishment, Wang Lu looked at the mottled dog by and jumping into the lake to commit suicide. In his heart, he thought, could it be that this stupid dog couldn't think straight because it was thinking about four-digit arithmetic? However, after a moment, a scene that left him dumbfounded appeared. The rippling surface of the lake set off even more intense waves. In the center of the lake, the graceful figure of a woman slowly rose from the water. Facing the moonlight, one could clearly see the woman's flawless and elegant face, as well as her long silver hair that was as bright as the moonlight. She wore a pure white dress that wrapped around her tall and slender figure. The woman's toes lightly touched the surface of the lake, and like a fairy walking on the waves, she descended to the human world. And beside the woman's feet, there was a pure white spirit dog. That spirit dog possessed an inconceivable charm, and its figure was flawless. Even Wang Lu and the others, who weren't of the same race, were deeply attracted by it. For a moment, everyone was stunned by the beauty of the woman and the spirit dog, and no one was able to speak. Even Xiao Qi, who was experienced and knowledgeable, was dumbfounded. It was as if she had been petrified. Only a trace of saliva dripped from the corner of her mouth, showing that she still had some consciousness. The first person to regain his senses was Wang Lu. The composure of a professional adventurer was always in effect. He stood up from the grass, coughed softly, walked to the lakeside, and spoke lightly to the fairy in white in the center of the lake. "Fairy, what I fell into the lake wasn't this perfect and flawless spirit dog, but a stupid mongrel dog." As he spoke, Wang Lu paused, observing the other's reaction. Seeing the lake fairy smile and nod, he asked tentatively. "In view of my honest answer just now, can you give me the spirit dog at your feet now?" Chapter 199. In view of my honesty just now, can you give me the spirit dog at your feet? When Wang Lu tentatively asked his question, the expression of the fairy in the center of the lake clearly stiffened for a moment. But the next moment, a gray shadow sprang out of the lake, breaking the tranquility of the lake's surface. Woof! They saw Wang Lu's pet dog Huahua, with a face full of excitement, pounced on the pure white spirit dog at the fairy's feet. Unfortunately, that spirit dog, with a face full of disgust, dodged sideways. Huahua missed and fell back into the lake. Wang Lu angrily glared at it. "Come back with me." After all, they had already exchanged the contract. Although Huahua was unwilling, in the end, he could not disobey Wang Lu's order. He swam back to the shore from the lake and struggled to fidget at Wang Lu's feet. Moreover, he took the initiative to speak human language. Hey, did you see that? Those two girls are so beautiful. I can't stand it." Tao Wu stuck out its tongue and put on an extremely wretched expression. "One for you and one for me, how about it?" Wang Lu sighed. "Sure enough, it's time to give you a heart transplant." Woof! Tao Wu shivered. While the man and the dog were talking, the fairy in the center of the lake chuckled and faintly said, "I have been waiting for you for a long time." Wang Lu was stunned. "Waiting for us for a long time? This is a bit informative." "Who are you?" The fairy said, "I am Yuntai Mountain." Wang Lu. Goddess of the mountain goddess? I don't dare to call myself a goddess. I am just a soul that was lucky enough to awaken in Yuntai Mountain. I was born without a name, so I will take Yuntai as my name. Wang Lu asked curiously, "If you are the mountain spirit of this mountain, then what about the dog at your feet?" Yuntai fairy said, "The target you are pursuing is the moon spirit." Wang Lu couldn't help but frown. It is said to be the moon spirit because it was enlightened by the moonlight. In essence, it is still the mountain spirit bred by Yuntai Mountain. Can Yuntai Mountain breed and accommodate two mountain spirits at the same time? This is a rare phenomenon and worth recording. Looking at your appearance, you should be older than Moon Spirit. Are you my elder sister? But you don't seem to be very strong. Oh, the books also say that the older a creature is, the stronger it is. Some creatures are not interested in cultivation and becoming stronger. I think you are the same. Grand Cloud Fairy shook her head, "It's just that my aptitude isn't good. Grand Cloud Mountain is a place blessed by heaven and earth. Unfortunately, my opportunity to open my spiritual consciousness isn't good." Wang Lu said, "All right, let's not worry about unrelated things for now. Since the origin is clear, please tell us in detail what is going on right now." Moon Spirit was born from the same source as me, but it was fortunate to be enlightened by the moonlight on the day of the Emperor Essence 60 years ago, obtaining the opportunity to condense the body of an immortal beast. For the next 60 years, I guarded it every day, absorbing the essence of the moonlight until now. As the fairy spoke, she gently stroked the head of the spirit dog. Her eyes were full of longing. If things go smoothly, Moon Spirit should have finished its virtuous work 3 days later, when the Emperor Essence comes. But as you can see, an uninvited guest has come to Grand Cloud Mountain. So I need your help. Wang Lu asked, "You are a local mountain spirit. Grand Cloud Mountain is a blessed land with rich spiritual energy, which is why a mountain spirit like you can be formed. And you have the spiritual energy of the earth veins within a radius of 500 li. Even if you can't contend against those Beast Master School barbarians, it shouldn't be difficult for you to protect your sister to smoothly cross her tribulation, right? For example, let her absorb the Emperor essence in this green lake and smoothly transform without anyone knowing. Even if they refine a spirit treasure, their power can cover the entire Grand Cloud Mountain. But you, a mountain spirit that has taken form, can use the spiritual energy of the earth veins to dig out a blind spot and cover Moon Spirit's tracks. Do you need our help?" Grand Cloud Fairy shook her head. "It is indeed as you said, the spirit treasure refined by Beast Master School is not the real problem. I can still deal with it. The problem is, in 3 days, if she can't seize the opportunity to absorb enough moonlight essence to cross the tribulation of transformation, we can't wait for another 60 years. Another 60 years is enough for Beast Master School to truly take root here. At that time, I'm afraid even I." Hearing this, Wang Lu couldn't help but frown. "You mean, Beast Master School people have a way to affect the Emperor essence? Are you joking? That level of heaven and earth change, even a deification cultivator would find it difficult to shake, just relying on these few barbarians?" Grand Cloud Fairy said, "Relying on these few people, they are indeed not qualified. Therefore, in this past year, they have been collecting spirit beasts, preparing to leave the 10,000 Spirit Lock Termination Formation." 10,000 Spirit Lock Termination Formation. Wang Lu said in astonishment, "Isn't it 10,000 Spirit Essence Gathering?" Wait a minute, these two formations do seem to have the same wonderful effect through different means. Wang Lu seriously recalled the formation knowledge taught by the elders of Ten Cloud Hall, and then pinched his fingers together to calculate, becoming even more astonished. So that's how it is. Extracting the spirits of 10,000 dogs to refine the spirit treasure beast collar is only a superficial camouflage. Their real purpose is to fully utilize these 10,000 spirit dogs, then use them as a blood sacrifice to completely ignite the resentment of living beings, using the resentful spirit's greed for Yin Qi to lock the moonlight essence, gathering the moonlight essence of the Grand Cloud Mountain in one place. At that time, the moon spirit will not be able to receive the nourishment of the moonlight, unable to transform, unable to leave the Grand Cloud Mountain for the next 60 years, truly becoming a thing in the palm of Beast Master School. What AF** King good plan? Deducing the Beast Master School's plan, Wang Lu couldn't help but exclaim in admiration, "This group of barbarians, they are unexpectedly smart." And as a former manager of Beast Master School, the cat girl also suddenly realized, so that's how it is the real plan like this? Wang Lu sympathetically looked at her, thinking, this idiot has a Peking pill cultivation base, but in the end, she didn't even know the Beast Master School's plan. It seems like she has never entered the decision-making circle. However, now that we know their plan, it seems like there's nothing we can do. To break the 10,000 Spirit Lock Termination Array, we have to enter the array and destroy the key node, which is no different than courting death. Wang Lu wasn't being modest. Previously, just to deal with a Xia, he had to go all out. Moreover, in the Beast Master School division, there were more than 10 King Pill level elders, not to mention there was also the Yuanying stage Tiger King. Using Foundation establishment to contend against the King Pill was already a miracle enough to shock the entire 9 regions, but contending against Yuanying? That must be the collapse of the law. Yes, with your current strength, it's far from enough to contend against the cultivators of Beast Master School. Grand Cloud Fairy lightly said, therefore, I will help you improve your strength. While speaking, a faint light emerged from the green lake. From the depths of the lake, a silver light penetrated through the water and reflected into Wang Lu's eyes. This is. Grand Cloud Fairy said, this is the moonlight essence that I have collected for thousands of years. Wang Lu exclaimed, thousands of years of moonlight essence. You have this kind of good thing, but you don't let the moon spirit use it? For the moon spirit, the moonlight essence in the lake is something that has been brewed, which is no longer helpful to her cultivation. Now, without the emperor essence, she can't transform. However, I believe that for you, it's still a rare treasure. It's enough to make people break their brains. Wang Lu muttered. The moonlight essence in the lake was blocked by the water, so it didn't show its true brilliance. However, it could be assumed that the millennia of brewing was no small matter. Since the end of the Age of Chaos, how many millennia had passed in the immortal cultivation world? Perhaps for the moon spirit, the moonlight essence in the lake was a bit less ethereal, which meant that it wasn't fresh enough. However, human cultivators were never that picky about food. This pool of moonlight essence was a priceless treasure. Why did even the Xingjing sect, the leader of the immortal cultivation world, encourage their disciples to constantly go out for experiential learning? Why did those disciples who were meticulously cultivated by the sect's elders also want to go down the mountain to seek immortal fate? Because some things could only be found in the boundless world under the mountain. Even though Xingjing sect occupied the entire region, perhaps they could only find a few millennia of moonlight essence. Such an opportunity could only be found at the foot of the mountain. The pitiful beast master school idiots only focused their attention on the moon spirit for more than a year, but they didn't realize that at the bottom of this green lake, there was a valuable treasure. At this time, the cat girl looked at the light in the lake with her mouth wide open. But, relying on the moonlight essence alone, it's very difficult to promote cultivation in a short period of time, right? Not to mention that the moonlight essence is just a treasure to nourish the spirit. It's not the best for magical power cultivation. In just a few days, it's not enough for us to evolve to the point where we can contend against the Beast Master School cultivators and control the situation on the Grand Cloud Mountain. Grand Cloud Fairy said, no harm, please go into the lake and you'll know. Just me? Ask the people around you to come with you. Grand Cloud Fairy turned her gaze to Luli and me. The girl was somewhat surprised, and then happily said, thank you, Fairy. Then, Luli bounced to Wang Lu's side and took his hand. Senior brother, let's go together. As for Xiao Qi, he was very self-aware and stopped moving forward. Not to mention that she was just an avatar, so the moonlight essence was almost useless to her. Even if her real body came, she wouldn't compete with the two juniors for the opportunity. And the cat girl didn't even dare to hope that she would have such a good opportunity. Hand in hand, Wang Lu and Lu Li slowly walked into the lake under the watchful eyes of Grand Cloud Fairy and Moon Spirit. Their feet sank into the soft soil as they slowly moved forward. The clear lake water soon overflowed their heads, reflecting the silvery light from the bottom of the lake. A moment later, the silvery light suddenly lit up the entire lake, wrapping the two of them in a piece of pure silver. Driven by the thought of Grand Cloud Fairy, the millennia moonlight crazily poured into Wang Lu and Lu Li's body using the lake water as a guide. Lu Li's reaction was the fastest. With a cry, she lost consciousness due to the impact of the surging tide of moonlight. Wang Lu's non-phase method had a deep foundation, so for a moment, he only felt that the silver waves impacted him from all directions. The moonlight essence that was supposed to be soft and ethereal was actually as hard as a substance. Was this the weight of millennia of brewing? The moonlight seemed to have turned into a fossil. However, what was more noteworthy was that, with such a strong impact, did it want to kill them? Fortunately, his and Lu Li's foundation was solid enough. If it were a foundation establishment cultivator from a common sect, with just one impact, their jade mansion would collapse and their soul would fly away. Wang Lu never doubted the identity of Grand Cloud Fairy. There was too much evidence to prove that she was indeed the mountain spirit of the Grand Cloud Mountain. However, up until this time, on the lake surface, Grand Cloud Fairy still didn't show even half a bit of malice. Then, there should be another purpose. Before long, Grand Cloud Fairy revealed the answer. As her toes gently touched the surface of the lake, thousands of ripples suddenly surged and spread out in a circle, colliding with the moonlight in the lake. Being in the lake, simultaneously feeling the collision between the moonlight and the ripples, Wang Lu suddenly felt that time seemed to have slowed down. The surging tide of moonlight suddenly seemed to be still, and that indestructible berserk aura, under the change of time, also seemed soft and ethereal. Wang Lu suddenly realized that Grand Cloud Fairy had been on the mountain for thousands of years. Not only did she lock the moonlight, she also locked the time. There was no 60-year cycle in the mountain, no one knew the year. This millennia mountain spirit displayed an inconceivable magical ability. Using the moonlight as a sacrifice, it distorted the time, making Wang Lu and Lu Li in the lake feel like a year. So that's how it was. This was the mystery that allowed her to greatly enhance her cultivation base in a short period of time. It was really a godlike method. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.